hello, or I guess hola a todos. Bienvenido a Toriuman. Actually, let me break this down for y'all, cause this is Doc, aka Magnum Suchio, aka you know Big Boom, aka Chad Galbi, aka Bruiser Bulgogi, aka the Perfect Tenryu, aka oh man, this is a smart bastard, aka we got here the problematic dragons, and I want to welcome people here to this show. This is Problematic Dragon because I got with me, of course, the other half of Problematic Dragon, Pumping Bomber Man. Drew, how you doing, man?
I'm doing phenomenal, Doc. I appreciate you inviting me out for this little panel. I think we're going to have a phenomenal discussion. I can't wait to get into some Dragongate and some analysis of some other companies.
Yeah, and I want to introduce this guy. I'm gonna give him a big introduction, um, but first I'm going to get to my tag team partner on this. You guys heard him on the State of Wrestling Observer Newsletter Hall of Fame 2025 ballot overview with JML, who runs the Wrestling Observer Newsletter Hall of Fame Tracker account. You can find him at WONHOF Tracker on Blue Sky and on Twitter. And, I'm talking about, of course, my partner, Mi Pareja, American Numbers. You're going to hear him later in this episode. But we were all just having, this really great discussion. And I just decided to hit record because, you never know what happens. And luckily, we were able to have like a big, long discussion with him on the show, which you'll hear. And he's great. He is a fan of modern day Dragon Gate, which I love. I love being able to have gotten a couple of my friends like really into this new wave of Dragon Gate, this Reiwa era, and I love how people are jumping on it because there's something I love about I love lucha libre. Lucha libre is my favorite style. Lucha resu is basically just lucha libre with some harder strikes, and Dragon Gate, it's the evolution of it from UWA, from Michinoku Pro, even from Toryumon, and it's just this is something that I love. This is something that I go back to like the '90s, like '98 when I got I bought the Toryumon commercial tape at a swap meet, like over in La Puente. If you know, you know where La Puente is, and like that's where like I first saw like guys like Genki. One of my favorite AKs is Genki Horoguchi main. And like you see him with long hair, and you see Dragon Kid, you see Don Fuji, and you see like Sema, and one of my favorite guys, Magnum Tokyo. And we're gonna get to it in this often, but one of the guys that I do share this, I mean, two of these guys, Pump. You also have like that historical reference and love for Dragon Gate, for the Dragon system. But one of the guys that I have always been talking about this with for like the last like 5 years, we seem to be the only voices in wrestling, wink wink, to talk about this stuff, to talk about Dragon Gate, to talk about like the history and what they mean to pro wrestling. And he's also, I want to say this, like before I started this, me and Punk were joking about this becoming a reality before it actually did. Thank you, Gary. Thank you, Scott, for joining us for the first Problematic Dragon. But like, it's just there's one guy also that I talked to, and he is the first person who, like, he inspired me to start really doing this, and like, he always had these like kind words. You heard his partner on the show before, Caden. Shout out to you, Caden. And he's actually been on the show before for one of my first Dragon Gate reviews. So like, who I'm talking about, of course, is I know him as Punished Bidoof. I know him as Ed. You should know him as Ed from Southern Fried Wrestlecast, available on all your favorite podcast apps. I listen to him on Spotify, by the way, and he is just one of the best minds in pro wrestling, not just for Dragon Gate, but in pro wrestling. Like we often, I mean, the three of us here often have like the same kind of takes on what pro wrestling and what good pro wrestling is. Especially Pump, you're gonna hear it later about how hot guys doing cool shit. That's the formula. That's the money making formula. And what Ed did for me is like he encouraged me to do it. he got his partner to actually do the show with me, and I looked up to you guys so much, Ed. Like the show you guys do is phenomenal, great stuff. And you, whenever somebody does something they care about, and you feel it from like their passion, you feel the passion every time I hear you guys. And I just want to say thank you, Ed, for inspiring me to do the show, and of course, welcome to the show, man. Good to have you, Ed.
Thank you so much for having me today, Doc. I hope I can not be disappointing on here. I
Yeah,
I always get worried whenever I'm on even my own show. I just sit there and I think it's like, oh crap, do I even have everything down? Do I have my thoughts collected? Am I even going to say anything interesting? And I hope I can bring something interesting to the problematic dragon crew today.
yeah,
So, I guess we're gonna talk some wrestling, aren't we?
yeah, and we're gonna get right to it. So, thank you for joining us. This is just the intro. Again, I'm just gonna throw do a little bit of like house cleaning right now. So please, if you're listening to this, you're probably gonna see like these episodes come out. I On Sunday I had released my episode with Garrett Gonzalez of Fight Game Media and F4W Online. It is part of my Asian American creators podcast series. You're going to hear that. And hopefully, also, when this comes out, before this comes out, you're going to see. I also did an interview with one Mr. Y Ting of Post Wrestling. And please enjoy those shows. But also, there's this big project that I did with mi pareja, mi primo, American Numbers, and Mr. JML, where we go over the Wrestling Observer newsletter, Hall of Fame, 25 ballots, and we go over every region. I had released already the historic ballots, but this week you will see both the Mexico and Japan ballots, and I think you're going to get a lot of joy out of that. So please enjoy those. Also, please listen to Southern Fried Wrestlecast. It's one of the best podcasts that I've ever listened to. He has a couple new episodes out right now, and I think you guys will enjoy them because I always listen to them. So please, again, just doing a little bit of house cleaning, and please listen and please enjoy the rest of the show.
My general thing on this whole Shun thing is I think the way they have to play it is they have to do the my two son things with the young boys he has, and he has to end up liking the boy he adopted at random more for it to work properly, right?
Yeah.
So he has to end up loving the new boy, the guy he like the foundling puppy. He has to end up loving him more than the puppy that basically followed him home. If that makes sense, right? Because that sets up both these guys. So that sets up a long-term rivalry between both of the young boys, and they clearly think those two guys are the future of the company. So getting them to like hate each other over Shun would be like a really good like long-term play, right?
Damn.
And have them resent each other and resent Shun.
Shun being the Don Callis right now is pretty funny to me.
Yes, that's exactly right. But he has to end up loving. He has to end up loving the new boy more because that'll drive Onari wild. Like that's what you want. That's.
I guess I want to ask real quick. At the very top of this, everybody has watched Gate of Victory, or at least the big show from Gate of Victory. I know the tour is still on.
Tag 3, correct? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I like this show. So
it was yet again another case where Dragongate, they didn't do anything. There wasn't like a huge blowaway match of the year candidate thing on here, but it was a show that felt largely really good, really easy to watch. Those 3 hours just flew by.
Yeah, I mean, what they do really well is they build a narrative and they build a progression and they always have a plan. Is my feeling of Dragon Days, they always have a plan. Take notes, New Japan. Like they're always building towards, like I just said, like they're building towards the future. Like the entire Shun angle is building towards 5-10 years down the line with everyone, and you feel like everyone's going somewhere. They're trying shit. If it doesn't work, they try something different, which is fucking great. That's how you're supposed to do this shit.
Well,
Yeah.
even the legs of the Dreamgate match itself, as far as Benkei and Kakuta, right? Those are two of the next big six, right? Of the
Yeah.
Reiwa generation, those are the two heavies of it, right? Really, the Reiwa generation started with Pac beating, or excuse me, with Benkei beating Pac in 2019 for the Dreamgate, and that was the
Yeah.
start of the run that we're currently seeing now. So even that match happening will come back around. We still don't know how Kimura is going to get his lick back on Shun for disrespecting him whenever he grows up, because he's 12 matches in.
Yeah,
That's so crazy.
I think the thing that's been really interesting with this run, and particularly with this show, just because you mentioned you wanted to do something that kind of is a discussion of the entire year of Dragon Gate. I think this has been kind of like the year of we're going to rebuild Kakuta. We recognize the problems that he had with his initial push. It didn't work out. We're not done with this man. We see the talent. We see something there. We're just going to like make a couple of changes, and we're going to get him back on track. And they have done a fantastic job with him.
It's not just that; it's very clear to me who they think their next ace is, or like they've been treating him this way. Like Tanaka, they've been kind of like building towards like heel Tanaka as like having a run at some point, and you can kind of see it kind of coming. Not yet, right? Obviously, they've got they've got a couple things in front of it, but they're building to it. Like he's gonna kill one of these. He's gonna kill one of his stablemates at some point. It's gonna be kind of fun. I was joking that he should basically like force a match over the high five flow, and then we can get Tanahashi to cry because like these two boys are fighting.
That's an interesting dynamic, because whenever he does turn, it should be 100% on Yoshi. By beating Yoshioka, especially because a little layered thing is Tanaka's been beating everybody with whose move.
Yeah. No, it's also
Naito.
Like
He's been hitting the Stardust press.
I'm sorry.
but
I'm sorry. I thought we
also
called it the Jokerlizer nowadays.
See,
but the fun part about like Tanaka, and I've noticed this as I've watched him, is he's gone from working. It's a little bit like the Shun thing, where like Shun's going from working heel to working tweener to working face somewhat, and then that kind of like killed him in the Kakuta match because he started working face at the end, but it wasn't enough to like get over, so he started like breaking out his old face moves. And Tanaka, you're kind of seeing him like work more heelish as it goes along. It's kind of unable. You can see him start working like a cocky asshole in he's still a face, but he's working like a cocky asshole, and I dig it. And again, I can see that they see him as the next guy. Not yet, but soon, right? They have
look at the guy.
Yeah, oh yeah, it's like
he's basically a tiny Tanahashi.
Well, the trick is gonna be okay. So he's got the face and the look, but when he turns heel, he has to he's gonna need to carry like the program, and I think that's what they're working towards. Is when he goes heel, how does he look carrying the programs? And if he can do it well, then he's gonna get he's already getting the push, but he's gonna get like the super rocket push. I think is what's gonna happen. You can see it. You can kind of see that that's kind of where they're going with it, right?
So I wanted to say something, because while you two seem pretty. While pumping numbers, you both seem pretty hard on with the idea of him turning on Yoshioka. To me, I feel like the perfect person for him to turn on is Daya, and I think they're kind of setting the groundwork for it with such an emphasis on Tanaka setting the Brave Gate record, and I think the ground's just there for Daya to be like the roadblock there that upsets Tanaka's streak.
And he basically goes heel by like giving him a nut shot or something in like the match.
I see the idea. I see the idea and concept in terms of Daya being from the dragon lineage, but I got to go back to this thing where I think it's a long-term story in which Ace gave Yoshioka the high five flow, and Tanaka's been beating everybody with the Stardust press. And I think that's an intentional thing, because Tanahashi Naito was such a big deal. And I don't think it's this. I think there's more layers to it. While you can get all the baby face you need to on Daya, look at Daya. He's like the most picture
Yeah, I mean,
perfect baby
essentially,
face.
I think I'm gonna be like that little meme says. Is that why not both? I do think again he's gonna be Trade Courage. I think that's where it's going, right? And it's gonna be both, and it's gonna lead to money matches with both of them down the line. I mean, obviously, I think Yoshioka is probably the long-term rival out of this, but yeah, him flipping on Daya with the whole record thing is kind of where I think you probably started and then lead into the other one. Again, it's setting up like what I like about the stories and the way Dragongate kind of plays is that you can kind of tell that they basically set this up so like you have like these rivalries, multiple layer rivalries, like the whole Shun and his faction turning on him and his previous faction turning on. You have like guys who have reason to want to get storyline and get tied together, and I think that actually like makes sense and helps with the way it goes, right?
You even have that as going into the Dreamgate. We have several people where it makes perfect sense for them to maybe be the one who eventually overcomes Kakuta. Like you have Yoshioka, he feels like the obvious one, but you also have Strong Machine J just sitting there. You have a possible Shun return match. I don't know how many of you taken a look at the Kingagate bracket, but even beyond those three, like the other interesting match that they haven't even gotten to yet, probably because he's just coming off of a long run with it, is Kakuta stumbled before with Yamato. I think you've got to revisit that in time.
I think the play with Shun was always going to be Shun. Eventually, the goal with Shun is he's going to come out in all white. So he's going to eventually go full babyface. And I think the dynamic with the young boys is going to play into that, right? Because when he does go into full babyface mode, that's when he's going to get a big win. And I think it might be one of the boys pushing him in that direction. The other boy, Honare, who's the one who like wanted to be with the crazy Shun, probably getting mad about it, right? And I think that's kind of like, but again, it's obvious that Shun is building in that direction. And I think that's what's going to drive that story. And he's got to get the big win when he's kind of like fully face again. I think he's not. I think they're going to play the game where like he's not. It's going to cost him not going full face, right? Until he kind of like comes back to like. And I say like it's funny that he's got like a bit of the Santo gear going with his design. So like yeah, he's kind of playing towards going full white at some point from like Beast from the Outer Realm to like pure like white meat Mexican kind of lucha gimmick. Right, which is, I mean, again, it's very traditional, and I like it. I like things. I'm a guy who appreciates when somebody kind of takes advantage of like the there's memes that we have in wrestling and take advantage of those, right? Things that are recognizable to people. So yeah, like having that Santos style gear eventually as your end goal is good. Mystico is the other one, like yeah, the white gear, the big babyface gear. Shiny babyface gear. He's been doing the shiny heel gear with the black and then throwing in the outer like the Beast from the Outer Realm thing into his gear is always like a good move. But yeah, I mean like that's kind of where I'm seeing like, and again as I said, like I appreciate Dragongate for being a promotion that embeds the training and the development kind of into the growth of what they're doing, right? And then if something doesn't work, they try something fucking different, right? They embrace change, right? I think that if we talk about the main problem with some of the other promotions in Japan, like New Japan, they don't. They basically, it's the same fucking House of Torture angle they've been running for like what, 6 years, 7 years, and you're like, okay,
5 years.
and I thought, I mean, like one thing we pitched is like, hey, maybe Ren beats Zack, right? Oh, maybe Ren beats Zack, and that would have been a good play, even if Ren is beating Zack and then losing to Takeshita. You could use a Ren beating Zack angle and being the first Reiwa to actually win the IWGP as a long-term booking gimmick to get him heat. Basically, you can use it to break up the house and have him like either feud with Evil over the leadership of the house or have him get kicked out of the house. And then also you can use it to have him hold it over like every other Reiwa's head. That's like, yeah, you fucking losers couldn't get the IWGP and I got it. Right, and it's a long-term story gimmick with him, and it makes Ren who's a decent enough worker. It sets him up as a main event player. But like that's too interesting for New Japan. Like fuck it now. Like Zack's gonna win again. We'll do that. Like we're still not gonna establish any of the Reiwa boys, and we're not gonna like grow or move anything. It's all gonna stay stale. And then if you come stale, you can't sell. Right. So.
Because they
Yeah,
debuted
going on.
the new mask guy, right? Did we figure out who that? Did they say who it was
Oh
finally?
no.
Because
So that's what I was asking about with have people seen the Gate of Victory because when the big things that came out of the Gate of Victory is that Shun and Homare have already tossed Kazuma Kimura to the side because he is a disrespectful little shit.
he
And
Yeah,
deserves it.
yeah.
and he presumed too much. So they threw him aside, and Shun used all of his great connections to bring in this guy in his best business casual to come out in a mask and then just leave.
Which is a very Shun thing to do is just say, hey, toss this young boy out for a different young boy who he thinks is more of a service to him, just to not do anything. Right? Like the idea is like Shun's so maniacal that he controls it all. And he's just like, no, I don't need to do anything right now. This guy doesn't need to punch anyone. We'll just wait for him to work a match.
Yeah, as far as who it is, they have not said who was under that mask. I think the current going theory is that it is one of the other young boys that have just kind of have also been working around on the tour. They're finally going to take a shot with them. Because the main thing that's been a criticism of those two young boys, whose names are escaping me at the moment, I think it's Oshima or Tsuchiguchi.
Yeah. They're both tall too, so it's like I don't know which one's which.
They're both pretty tall boys. But the main thing that they've been saying, or at least Jay's been saying on Open the Voice Gate and a couple of other places, is that they haven't found a way to connect facially. So throwing a mask on them seems like a good fix.
Yeah. And then sets that up. He builds some type of crowd connection, and then he can later down the line lose a mask in the cage or something.
Or just keep the mask. Like I know a couple of people have pitched Shun eventually losing the mask, and I think that's just such a mistake.
No,
Shun
that is
needs to
an
keep the
awful
mask
idea.
forever. Yeah.
That
And I'm not just saying that because
no.
I remember what Shun looked like without the mask. I'm saying that because I think the mask is so part of Shun's general charisma and identity at this point that taking it away just hurts him too much.
Yeah.
Looking at just going over some numbers, right? 2 days apart between Dragongate and New Japan, both in their last Korakuens, which is King of Pro Wrestling Tag 2. The attendance was 1,161, and Dragongate 2 days later did 1,116. So about 1,118. So about 43 people difference. So it's right there in terms of Korakuen attendance. They're not huge swaths apart. Dragongate slowly gaining, and I know it's been glacial, and I know that the guys over at Open the Voice Gate, who do a phenomenal job at everything that they do, they kind of iterate a consistent amount about how disappointed they are with the attendance and turnout numbers. But as slowly as it's been going, I do think that it is going to start coming around whenever they just keep debuting guys. And there's guys working matches on the openers now. And there's just so much youth and invigoration and enthusiasm that eventually those numbers will start to catch up. And everybody knows at this point, Dragongate's going to pull the trigger if they see potential in somebody. It's not like I'm looking at the New Japan cards and it's just the same stuff. It's the holdovers from the most prominent run from 2012 to 2019, and it's all of the same people still doing all of the same stuff. And now they just got a couple of guys debuting, and the guys that have been out there on the road for a good minute now are just beating the new guys, and it's not going anywhere.
We're still pushing ELP in 2025, man. We're still pushing ELP.
Yeah, I was talking about it with my co-host Caden privately, and I slipped and just referred to it as they're running off the dregs off the Renaissance, and I almost wanted to take that back because I was like, well, dregs is really unflattering. But
That's
isn't
fine.
that kind of what it is? Would Zack Sabre Jr. be the champion in a New Japan that still had like a Tetsuya Naito that could still go, or
No.
if Tanahashi had anything left in the tank, or if Kota Ibushi did not accuse him of having ties to the Yakuza?
No. If Goto
We
wasn't
had
filming the Street Fighter movie, he wouldn't have won the belt back. Let's call it what it is. Cause like that title loss and all that stuff that
Well,
didn't make any sense to me.
Goto, for as much as people love Goto, Goto would not be the
Hey.
champion if they had anybody else.
As a
if
Goto
Okada
freak,
was still
I
around,
appreciate it.
uh, if Shibata could still do it, if Okada was still around, if any of these guys were still there from their peak years, Dookie wouldn't be junior champion over Despy, two guys that were not getting any type of run back then. ZSJ, for as good as Zack Sabre Jr. is, and he's great, even during their peak, it's not like he was a perennial title belt holder.
No, he was
I
a
don't.
perennial challenger, though.
He was
That
a
was the thing.
that was the thing, but it's a magnitude difference between being consistently being put in the prominent position, but we still have a good 10-year run where he was just the bridesmaid to Osprey's bride. You know, it was
Yeah.
just he was there and he was good and he did the stuff. And Suzuki Gun was phenomenal. We all loved the stable. He did good shit. But it's not like you would ever think, looking back on it, that we would be talking about ZSJ as a main event guy that's consistently going to be holding the belt.
I think
Yeah.
the problem with Zach has always been that, I mean, I wanted him to have this run at the top, but the way you play it is you have to play it as kind of the heavy kind of bender guy. And what I mean by that is like, so he's a guy. He should be the guy that like that beats these guys with guile because he's so smart. He's so sharp. He like bends people into pretzels, and that should have been the role he should have played when he's like getting the Radio Boys and doing that. And that's not really the way they played. They didn't really tweak the character enough. They should have made him more like a final boss kind of character. Really, when they did that, and then have
It's
the
also
guys
really
kind of
hard
smash
to
their heads
it's
against
really
them.
hard to do that type of character for a guy who's been around for as long as Zack Sabre Jr. has.
Well,
I think the big problem with this run is that it's about almost a decade too late.
I mean, like, but he could be like more. Hey, be more Samoa Joe, be more Bryan Danielson. What I mean by that, like, be like that the heel version that's just bending the shit out of people, right? And then being like, you remember that People's Champions run for Danielson? Like one of the only good things WWE in the last 10 years.
His Captain Planet run.
Captain Planet run, where he's just like being like
The
he's
Captain
just
Planet
amping
run's
everything
great.
up. Yeah, and that would be kind of perfect for Zach. Just amp up the asshole a little bit, like just pretentious, like, and then just kind of bend the shit out of people, and then like beat them with roll ups or beat them with like wrist control and like a little bit like little MJF too. And you could do that against the Reiwa boys and have them fail to get over, and then when one of them actually does get over on him, it would be actually kind of a cool thing, right? But they didn't kind of play that. They did the Goto thing, which I understood, right, at the time. But then you're left in a place where you really haven't established anybody, right? You're just like,
Yeah.
okay.
I was kind of hoping with the Goto run that they would have done basically their own take at the Yamato Dreamgate run, where Yamato's like, okay, I'm the bar. You think you're going to be the next ace of Dragon Gate? Let's see if you can step up and take me.
Yeah.
I
And
have to
that
take
just
these
never
belts
happened.
back. I have to take these belts back because you guys are failing to get over. Now you guys aren't getting this back until you get over. And then
That
Shun
break
takes
game.
it off him after a near year. Shun beats him, and then Shun loses the belt a month later because the money in Shun is always in the chase. And while, yeah, it is a contradictory thing to run this babyface kind of storyline where Shun never really gets his run, there's money in that because Shun is the face. He is the orbit in which everything revolves around. So him not
But
having the title and being aggrieved is the money.
But it was a very, the way it was laid out was really cool because essentially Shun loses because he gets in his own way in that match, right? So he's working like a crazed person, and then he's at the end where he's trying to go, he starts breaking out the things that like are the best. It's the best part of him at the end of that match, but it is enough to overcome kind of the odds against him and kind of like the numbers and whatnot. And so like he can't win by being a better heel, essentially, right?
I think there's another
and that's
crucial.
I think.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, I think there's another crucial element to the Shun Skywalker saga, especially when it comes to the Dreamgate, is Shun actually wanted the Dreamgate in this entire time. Even now, he's not talking about, like, pursuing Kakuta specifically. It's kind of the story with Shun, is that he keeps kind of throwing other curveballs in the direction of what seems like the obvious path. He spent most of the year after beating Yamato saying, "No, I have no interest in the Dream Gate. I'm going to go book Shun Skywalker Quest."
that is a thing in the whole is how much does he really value being champion versus like actually being champion or actually winning. Is his value can still be low, but it is a self-affirmation thing in which he wants to win because it's his own insecurity, right? Most of his story is based around him as an individual just constantly battling himself. So the title represents like, oh, I am as good as I think I am, versus other promotions perceiving the belt as top guy status. He says, this makes me who I think I am.
I still think he sees the belt as below him. I think that was a lot of his promos, is saying like, why would I need to even challenge for that? That doesn't mean anything to me.
That was
I
basically
crave power.
the build to. That was most of his year, was him saying, I don't need the Dream Gate. I'm above the Dream Gate. I don't. Yamato needs to figure out how to get to the Shun Skywalker level, stuff like that.
Yeah. Sure,
I think essentially, it's going to wind up being, as I said, it's going to wind up being part of his story as he goes face, and eventually you get a big babyface moment with him winning. But it's a long arc, and there's no point. It made sense the way they did it, which was essentially like transition. It set up a bunch of things. It moved Yamato off. It kicked up Kakuta for another run. It set Shun off onto his redemption arc. So essentially, it was a very good story beat for everyone and kind of set the tone for the next, whatever. As I said, like evolution and change is the name of the game for Dragongate, and I think that it keeps it fresh, keeps it interesting, it keeps it moving along, right? And I think that's part of that. And again, you put people in these places that they have an opportunity to try and get better, right? If that makes sense.
Yeah. The best part about this for me is like Yamato's like kind of like toned down. So like that's a 43-year-old in the thing. The old man that challenged from the Reiwa 6-pack is what? It's Benkei, right? He's the oldest of the big Reiwa 6. And what's funny is we're talking. What's that?
We were just confirming he's the oldest.
Yeah. So then what we're talking about future tense, it's like Shun's not even 30 yet. So if we compare this to like, I'm gonna go bring them back again because like I just watched that Takeshita Big Baby build-up video they released. And like, oh man, Yuka like Barry makes him look like so.
I can't believe they kept that line in there.
He's just a big baby. And then he says, "Yeah." In the dojo they call me big baby.
Here's the reason.
Here's the reason. If you're baby facing Takeshita, like Yuka, kind of like his oh my god, that his wife being kind of mean to him somewhat, baby faces him a little bit, like it humanizes the baby face. But the problem is, again, the thing with them is even with the Takeshita thing, like they've got him set up to be a baby face, but they keep booking. Like Gato keeps like kind of throwing a fit and booking against it. The whole G1 run was like, okay, you're working heel, but then like selling face, and it just doesn't fucking work, right? And they could just immediately flip him face. The will's there, but you gotta book the matches so that like the psychology's right. Not book the psychology back. Like don't book the psychology backward and tell me it's Takeshita's fault, because that's not on him. That's on the fucking booker.
Yeah, because I'm just like comparing the ages for like the New Japan guys, because they had the ages up there, right? Because I think Shota's like 28, Yoda is like 32, and they fucked them over so many times. Man, Yoda, if you would have been in Dragon Gate, they would have loved you so much.
Yoda Suji, the yogurt pitchman.
Yeah, and like when I look at the ages of like the people that Dragon Gate are pushing up there, I mean, this has been a thing for them forever.
I think I might need to explain that a little bit. So Yoda, the one thing that, and I figured this out, like that the Marlowe thing that he's wearing is from like a yogurt. It's the yogurt pitchman for like something. And here's the thing, it's fine, but effectively, if you want me to take this guy seriously as a top guy, don't have him go out dressed like, it's like if I sent out like, imagine if WWE sent out Braun Breaker dressed up as like the Colonel from Kentucky Fried
Don't give him any ideas.
You mean like what they did with, of course, everybody's favorite leading man, Nick Nemeth.
Nick Nemeth, yes. Yeah, but like, by that point, Nick was already kind of like way down the card, and he had his last big program.
I mean,
like,
have you guys?
People. So like, yeah.
Have you guys followed the Colonel's I think great nephew? He's keeps giving out the secret spices.
Oh yeah, he gives, yes. Yeah, because he's tired of people cursing after his great grand uncle or something.
Yeah, he just gives away the recipe while he's playing Sonic on Twitch or something. It's hilarious. You guys should check that out. And yeah, what I feel from Dragon Gate, because we look about because there's that lost generation from the last decade ago, right? When we go back, it's always Shingo. We always got to go back to Shingo and Yoshino, and they went back to Pac, and they gave Shun that short run, and it's just the thing about that lost generation is they were stilted. They were stilted until they had somebody that had something going on, and it took a couple of years, but we're here now, and everybody kind of feels in the setting where they got their personalities, they have their match style, they have directions, and I think it's all worth it. And what Pump was saying earlier about being in a glacial state, it's something where historically when we talk about these big pushes and these big booms and big boom in pro wrestling, and specifically in Japan, because you think about things like the Three Musketeers plus Kensuke plus Sase, right? They were the three young guys. Inoki was going down the card, Fujinami, Choshu also going down the card, and these three guys, 4 or 5 guys, were all rising up at the same time as that. We look at the the four heavenly kings, and it's guys like Stan Hansen and Jumbo Saruda, losing to these new generation of guys, Baba even losing to these new generation of guys as they're rising up and establishing them as the guys for the next 10, 15 years. And sure, some guys had a shorter run of losing all this. I think Kawada lost 200 something matches before he won his first match. But
I mean, the one everybody goes to is the Kento Kobashi story, where he lost 86 matches before he got his first win.
Yeah, and
I think the other thing to bring up here is things like Stardom, or by comparison, Stardom also understands the change and kind of evolution and trying people in new roles and elevating things and moving things around, keep the roster interesting, right? Bring the best people in and keep churning and give them opportunities, and you'll get there. You can't just if something's not working, the answer isn't just to go back or just stay static, because people are already bored with it. They're just gonna get more bored if you keep doing the same thing over and over again. It's kind of the problem. WWE has that problem too right now, where they're doing the same thing, and it's old people, and they got one idea, more Polynesians. Yeah, that's their one move, right? More Polynesians showing up. That was I saw the thing with the new Jeff Cobb's stable versus the Brave, the Wyatt Six. Oh God, I'm what the hell are you doing, people? Anyway. Right.
Hey, I'm gonna bring this up a little bit because Stardom, right? So Ash Nico, right? She's a little pop star thing, right? So has Starlight Kid in her new music video, right? You guys have seen this, right? So there's a definite push for Bushiroad to push all those young girls like Starlight Kid, Azumi, Saya Kamatani is she's established as a star in Japan. Like just as a star, they're inviting her out to do like these benefit concerts, all these variety shows. They want her on the TV. She was able to get Stardom on like terrestrial Japanese TV, terrestrial. Now,
And Saya's everywhere on these like Japanese variety shows too. She's great.
yeah,
It's
compare
not
that.
crazy for me to.
Let's compare that to their to the guys that like. Does New Japan have a guy with buzz like that? No, they don't.
They could.
Well,
They could get
that's the
somebody
thing
like.
about that's the thing about success, though, is New Japan has been on top for so long now. They're terrified to relinquish the mantle again. You know, like they're stagnant because they're terrified of being knocked off the block. Where Stardom, I mean this not as any type of slight, but they've kind of had a meteoric rise, right? They had the ability to just try new things because the fan base was building as they were trying to get over. So it's not a thing in which they were selling out the Tokyo Dome and they're like, oh no, we got to stay doing this because this is our livelihood now. They're too scared to take a step backwards.
I think you actually just hit something interesting because it's kind of been the larger conversation with Dragongate since COVID to me. This is a promotion that before COVID, like things just weren't clicking. Everything was just kind of off. Nobody outside of the already established guys was getting over, and so during that period of time, they decided to just use the generation war as kind of a hard reset on the entire promotion. For move some stuff around, try some different ideas, really elevate Ata at the time, and it ultimately has paid off. We can see it now from how things are, where it feels like such a vastly different company than it was even. I was going to say 5 years ago, but even 3 years ago, it feels so different because because the guys who were struggling 3 years ago, I think, like Kakuta or even Daya to a degree,
Big K.
have a lot of those issues. Ben K, they don't have a lot of those same struggles anymore. They feel a lot more defined.
Even Kota
Japan got bailed out. I think New Japan, in a way, got bailed out by AEW, and people are like complaining about. Like, what I mean by that is, effectively, you can predict over history in Japan that there comes a time when the top dog kind of starts stagnating, and it generally leads to a migration. Like somebody like a bunch of people leave and form a new promotion, or something happens and changes the kind of the paradigm, and that something would have been the talent that kind of left to form AEW, but since they left to go to North America, that didn't affect New Japan, and New Japan basically just was able to double down on being stagnant, and now this is where you are now, right? And they're also kind of like bailed out a little bit because like there isn't the talent in Japan to form a strong competitor at the level that would have been like 20 years ago, because again, the doors are open for that talent to go work in the US and get a bunch of money.
No talent and no resources. Nobody else has the stuff to put together another viable number 2 right now.
I'm gonna say that, like, to the point you're making about them being on the TV and doing the variety show circuit and whatnot, I would not be surprised if, like, 3, 4, 5 years down the line, Stardom is a bigger money-making concern for Bushiroad than New Japan, because the potential for like other things to make them money, and then like being popular on TV and like doing music videos and there is the idol culture. I think the idol, like the intersection between Stardom and idol culture and kind of like how they make money. And then, the people who are running Stardom are generally smart. They're the people who were, I forget the booker, Taro Okada, who's the guy who's running their theater shows. Like, so he knows how to get these people kind of booked in like regular TV and like monetize the stuff. So I think there's like, to me, there's a little bit of like, I think they're smarter about that. And like long term, having the ability to kind of monetize what you're doing and get everybody kind of like paid and get everyone popular, I think is going to only lead to further growth of Stardom. Whereas I don't see New Japan having that. Like the hottest thing New Japan has right now, in my opinion, is probably Judo Ice, right? That seems to be maybe possibly something where they have something, but I'm confident they're going to fuck it up, right?
Yeah.
Well, they've kind of already. It seems like they've already
lost,
fucked
man.
it up because they see him as a tag guy.
Yeah.
But essentially, like the point is because you're stagnant. Now he's got to pay his dues and lose to a bunch of like. That's saying like no. Now you're gonna make him lose to a bunch of fucking jobbers who've never drawn a fucking dime. Right, the middle like that entire like New Japan card is full of like dudes who never beens and never will be's, right? And like so why in the fuck are you taking people who are coming in with potential and having them like drop pinfalls to fucking like Yoshihashi, right? What the fuck? Why? In 2025, why? Why are you doing this, right? Like really anybody you feel is the next guy. This is like my problem in the G1. It's like a lot of these guys, particularly the young guys, should have just like run through these like fucking bets where like the only like Zack and Goto are the only ones where I wouldn't just immediately have somebody like Yoda pin him. Like Yoda should have like been beating people. There's people in there who should have just been beating in like fucking like 5 minutes. ELP, fuck, beat that guy in 5 minutes, right? Because essentially
it's one of the few things I feel like they got right during the G1 this year is that Tsuji beat Sonata in like 4 minutes.
Yeah, and that's great. But then you had Takeshita dropping a fall. Takeshita was dropping a fall to fucking El Fantasma. Why?
Yeah.
Why in the world would you think that's why would you think that's a good thing? And I understand. Like, here's the thing. I finished like 5th in the forecasted G1 contest, right?
Yeah.
Like I understood what they were doing in the booking room. What they're doing is they were booking night to night, and they were booking to like, how do I get like a hot match every night? But the problem with that is by doing that, then you're kind of counteracting like, no, these fuckers should be booked strong. And if you go back and look like 5 or 6 years, fucking Naito wasn't dropping random falls to people. Like, Naito wasn't dropping random falls. Like Okada wasn't dropping random falls to fucking like if Okada was dropping a fall in a G1, it was to set up an angle down the line. Somebody was going to work like a money program.
The closest I can think of to Okada dropping a random fall to anybody was the year he lost to Ishii during the G1.
Yeah.
That's not.
Yeah, but that's set up. I mean, there was money to be drawn by doing that, right? So like there was a point my point being that like you're basically so short-sighted in setting this up for like, oh, so we can draw a house next night. Motherfucker, I get that, but you have to think about if the yogurt mascot is going to be a guy, if Shota's going to be a guy, if just give them like treat the guys who you think are dominant as like a top tier and have them go through your fucking job guys, because there's a bunch of guys who are just really job guys who are like getting pinfalls on people they have no business getting to, and that makes your main events feel kind of unimportant. If that makes sense, right? You have to kind of establish a hierarchy.
That'd be like if Kai started going on a run and beating Strong Machine J, Ryoya.
Well,
Kai's never winning anything again.
By the way,
that's why it's like it's so like when I think about like what New Japan's doing is like going back to these guys. Like imagine Dragongate going back to Kai, like.
Well, it's also a thing in which we can't say go back to Dragongate on this because, again, New Japan is a big budget company. They have a certain thing. They're corporate owned. They have certain obligations. So them taking a step back, it's a justification something to a business at large where Dragongate is effectively an indie with backing. And then also, too, is taking a step back in general is kind of admitting defeat. So it's a double-edged sword for them because there's no real win for them. They know that it's not going well. They know it. Everybody in the company on the corporate side, including the president, knows what the situation is, but they're just grappling on to the last bit of money they can get before everything goes downhill.
I mean,
Go
ahead.
Okay, but also to kind of follow up with Pump's point is that it is the very nature of New Japan's structure that does kind of prohibit them from taking some of the drastic risks and shoving guys up as Dragongate has done because of their structure, because of being owned by Bushiroad, they're a little bit more insulated from the disasters that they could be experiencing from having pushed nobody for so long.
Because they are publicly traded. That's got to be said.
They're gonna end up firing the creative, and I think essentially they have to, the way if you think about it, if you look at how both sides of the company are booked, I think, oh, like I remember the argument was like, oh, you got to keep the people who like have the confidence of the locker room and like this. Dude, like you did the opposite in fucking Stardom, and it's like it's been selling like copy. You put people who know how to like run shows, theatrical and sell, and it's been like everyone's doing really well. So you got to do the same on the other side, and essentially you also need to like those personal relationships are like, oh, where like, oh, I can't have LP eat a pin, or I can't have this person eat a pin. Like, motherfucker, you don't need that. You need guys who are like a little bit more focused on the next, because like essentially like that older generation is kind of done. So you need to like kind of move on to like a new booking team, like kind of like allows you to kind of like move along and do things in a slightly different way. I was gonna say, the point I was gonna make is, so Mox was right. So Mox, the whole Death Rider thing, where he came in and said like, this scene sucks in AEW. This scene sucks. We got a bunch of like no-name jobbers like hanging out, like the fucking Johnny Hungy running after the fucking truck thing. Like, I'm gonna get rid of all these motherfuckers, and I'm gonna like get it so like if people who want to like be main event players have to step up. And they really, if you look at the storyline, they got rid of all the shit. They got rid of all the like the detritus of the last 5 years that really was out of place in modern AEW is gone. It's just gone from the card. And now we have guys who are like exciting and kind of like step up and young in the next generation, and they basically use that Mox reign and that to just reset everything, get to a place where like you are much like, if you look at that card now, it makes sense in logical order. And really New Japan really kind of needs to do the same thing, where like no, we need to get rid of all that shit, like, and like, so like I said, like, where I have more time apparently in the booking team for like Okan, for example. I like Okan, but I like Okan when he's presented in a way that's slightly different. Like, so occasionally he'll do the whole shoot thing, which is like more interesting to me, and he's much better at it than whatever he does typically, right? So maybe that's a gimmick you reset, or like you find him something else. Like, again, like Dragongate would have like basically taken him and like shifted him a couple times and get him to the right place. Because I do think you can draw money on top of Okan, but you can't do it with this shitty cartoonish gimmick he's been doing for the past 5 years. You can do it where he gets more serious, right? And same thing with Zach, where I want to tweak him because I think there's potential, but you got to tweak his gimmick, right? And they did that with Goto, right? But it was kind of like, because by default they had nothing else and the crowd kind of drove them over. But you got to be able to, like, again, like Dragongate, evolve and like try things and figure out what works and doesn't, and try something new, right?
That's what I was going to point out to kind of bring us back to the subject at hand with Dragongate. It is kind of fascinating how another thing that's persisted through this year is this story of having a next generation step up. That was Yamato's entire purpose for his Dreamgate. And what has been the point of Kakuta's Dreamgate run and his mission statement is he wants to create a better, stronger Dragongate where basically only the strong survive, is how I think it's been phrased a couple of times.
He's doing a little. If you think about that angle, they're stealing a little bit from the Death Riders angle. People are gonna get mad at me. But essentially, they turned on Shun.
Well, they're
like turning on. Like, no, Shun.
They're stealing from their own history. They're stealing from the Blood Warriors.
True, but it's very much also. It's also about the
man after my own heart.
It's a little bit of a Death Riders, because you turn on Danielson Shun, right, and then like you go off and you're making a new Dragon Gate, just wrecking things. And and having that heavy heat heel run is where you clean out the card and reset it is good. But again, for Dragongate, it's really cool because they have a lot of guys that can step up, and they even had the Mochi Dojo graduation, which also will feed into this hopefully, because again, it's all these new guys coming into new roles as kind of like the roster is redefining itself, and so that means like their card is going to be fresh next year, right? So again, that's. We're wrestling fans. We want new, right?
Yes.
I want new. Right?
But also, how much has... Well, that's the thing, though, is Dragongate never beat guys to death, and now you don't have to go through this rehab cycle. They immediately, once they saw they saw the tide turning, with Yoshino having to retire, Mochizuki wanting to step down a little bit, a lot of these guys... Doi wanting to go freelance, all of these things as careers were winding down. Where in New Japan, if I watch a New Japan show, I have to sit through a bunch of guys who have been beaten to death for the past 5 years. Now it's not as simple as just pushing these guys. There's a whole rehab project that needs to happen just to get these guys to a sustainable point to be able to carry something, just to get the next generation over.
It's so lame, man.
of those New Japan veterans that's got to figure it out is Ishii. Because Ishii basically is kind of in the process of low-key rehabilitating his career, because essentially he said, like, I'm not going to keep working in New Japan. I'm going to start doing
AEW
like,
guy.
interesting dates. Yeah, but he goes in and he has these interesting matches and like these interesting one-off feuds, and then goes off and makes money. And he's doing the traveling veteran thing, which is a really good use of it. And then he goes back and he can kind of like be refreshed because they haven't seen him for a while, right? It's like, how can I miss you if you never go away, right?
I think Dragongate also has another thing going for it that New Japan has never put the proper value towards, and that's the fact that they will take their guys and they just put them in, or they give them twin gate runs, or they put them in a triangle gate run for a while, like what they're doing with Shun, or what they've done in the past with Yamato or BB Hulk when they don't need them to be at the top right now. It's like, well, they're still stars. We still want to use them. We still want to treat them as such. So what do? We find them placed in like in the twin gates, or find a place of them in the triangle gate, and that was how they managed to keep them from being beaten to death the entire time. And that's something that New Japan has always struggled with, is what do you do with, like, say, Okada when the IWGP title isn't in his purview. And they have nobody to blame but themselves for that. They've put no stock in the tag division, a place where you could have put all these people. They created those trios titles and done fuck all with them.
How long would it take, even with a proper rehab, to get Umino to a place in which he's a believable contender? Like, so than just putting him into the match, just on a genuine basis.
I can get Shota rehabbed in one night. I can get him rehabbed in one night. I have him in a match. I have him in a title match. His dad is the referee. His dad, like, basically doesn't let him pull some sort of, like, shenanigans. He loses, grabs his dad, puts him to a fucking table. Yeah. And we have I never loved you, Dad. I never loved you, and I never wanted to do this. And he goes funny. Like full
you
mental.
Should take his shoes. Take his
shoes.
Oh,
no that's shoes, great. And he can wear the he can do the gimmick where he's wearing the shoes around him. Yo, that's perfect. Oh, that's a great one. He puts him to the table, takes his shoes, and he wears them
giving
around
the Bronson Reed gimmick, man.
Yes,
I do.
And then he's going around, and now we got like Shield Shota. But like, again, if I'm doing that, then I probably want like maybe I like pull off like Ren and make them into like a heel stable, and they go off like murdering old dudes. Now they're mad. They're gonna murder all the old vets, and they're gonna target all the oldies, and they're gonna go through them and just basically squash them, put them through tables, and like send them off like the Randy Orton Legend Killer gimmick. We're gonna send everybody off to the hospital. And just go through and do that, right? And you can do what's his name? Dick Togo. Dick Togo's next. So we do Red Shoes, then we do Dick Togo, then we do like Yoshihashi, then we just go through all that, just send them off. Is Backlog Folly willing to come in and like go through a table? We bring in Backlog Folly and like put him through a table and send them off. You
know who I see that doing that in actually in Dragongate? Homari would be perfect once he turns on Shun and starts killing off the guys in front of him. Homari would be perfect for that.
By the way, I'm willing to give Shota Umino like one of my greatest ideas. It's like do a segment where he goes to Inoki's grave and pins him. Like, literally, goes to Inoki's
He could do that. He could chain a Baba.
1, 2, 3.
Oh my God! Yes, that's the way you do it. He's bullied his father so much that he has his father count the pin on Inoki's grave.
And he has like he basically count it, and like he has to count the pin on Inoki's grave. Like I want to do that. Like I want to do that with Santa, but Santo's buried. I think Santo's buried on his. He's not on his back. Right? They didn't bury him on his back.
Yeah, Santo's put in a wall. He's put in a wall.
I'm pretty sure if you do that at Santo's grave, you might end up in a morgue. So.
Yeah. Bad juju. He's gonna come back and haunt you.
Well, the thing about this is like these old like Inoki would totally be into it. By the way, like the reason I'd be doing it is because somebody like Inoki would totally be into like somebody like putting a pin on him in his grave. That'd be like because again, it's the heat. It's the heat, man. Like that's what you do it. Like and again, you have to
He
like
let Tiger slap his wife. So
Man.
yeah, I mean classic angles. Like
Hey,
so like yeah,
for more
like,
on this
somebody-
for more on this Tiger Jeet Singh thing, go ahead and check out our State of Wrestling Observer newsletter 2025 ballot predictions, because we do cover this in our historical ballot. Coming out probably this week, you'll also hear us how on our 2025 ballots for Japan and Mexico, which I believe are two very contentious ballot predictions. So please, I know I'm taking time out of my own show to plug my own show, but that's what happens.
no, that's called being a genius. It's big.
Yeah. That's a segue for you. But there's a strong opportunity that Inoki would have one last muscle twitch and kick out at 2.
Oh gosh.
like the ghost of Inoki, like so, like the ground would start shaking and kick him off the grave. It's like yes, he's not having it. Would also be fucking. That would also be amazing TV. Like yeah, the ground starts shaking.
Yeah, they could definitely film there at night and then just like have like the shaky cam thing and they're like 1, 2, whoa, and then they just run. You know, like how because
count it again.
Because Shota's carrying like he usually carries like a fake belt, right? He carries the paper belt, a plastic belt, paper plate belt that little kids built to give him. If he comes out with the V1, the V1 IWGP belt and calls himself the uncrowned champion, because the thing is, if you watch the Takeshita thing, they push that he's the only one that beat him in the G1 from this generation, so he has to stop him. The whole thing is stop Takeshita. So I don't know where they're going with that. Takeshita kind of said, like, you know, I'm like John Cena because I focus on the entertainment side of things. I'm in competition with what's in the movies. I'm in competition with Demon Slayer. That's Takeshita's words, and that's how he sees pro wrestling. I think that's pretty cool. I also think guys like Shun also see pro wrestling as sort of like a conduit for their creativity, and like you guys seen like the Shun shows, right? He's basically doing El Comandante like Takada from Hustle, where he's like in purple, he's laughing and all that stuff. And to bring it back a little bit,
Quest was basically a hustle show.
Yeah, it was great, man. He had his own like Super Sentais on there, and I just think like that's a benefit of having of Dragongate being able to do that kind of show, as to what Pump was saying earlier, and Ed is like, you know, they're smaller, they're run by the guys that are in the promotion. They're the guys that are driving the ring trucks, that are putting the ring together, that are selling them online, that are doing all that. And the benefit of them being a smaller company, they do have that independence to work these new things out, to like kind of workshop these in those house shows, even the unaired house shows. They have opportunity to work things out and make things happen to where they want to, because they have that opportunity. They don't have sponsors. They don't have, shareholders. They don't have old talent like holding up the line, or like too politically influenced.
The old talent dynamic in Dragon Gate is completely different from all the other places, because so many of those older guys, especially the ones from the Toryumon generation, they have the understanding of what it's like to kind of be ostracized or not treated with the respect that you felt you deserved, because how many years was it that the Toryumon style was shat on by the larger Japanese scene?
Ooh, so much, man. Because there's such a, they were always calling like, because over here they call like AEW what Lucha Libre is, like just a bunch of guys jumping around, nothing happening, nothing matters. They were kind of saying that about Dragon Gate, but also they were calling them like, it's not for men, because the majority of the audiences for Dragon Gate, Toryumon, was women. So they were kind of like seen as the unmanly, the not tough, they were seen as the for girls.
Look at all these pretty boys that they push. It's basically an idol company.
Yeah, but the funny thing about that is there's a thing about bars and stuff, and managers will tell you that you bring in the women and the men will follow. You always book everything for the women. because the men will
Yeah.
always follow. So like by booking a bunch of hot dudes doing cool stuff that is incredibly athletic or interesting or entertaining, is everybody's going to end up wanting to be there.
Yeah, which
And we're
is what
seeing
kind of
that come back around.
Hey, Hangman. Hello, Hangman. Yes, that's kind of
Yeah.
like what's going on. So this was I said to the guys beforehand, like I got to do a run in and then like got to do a run out. We done like and plugging the content. We did about 8 hours of audio for like the Hall of Fame, which Doc will be posting. And it's extremely good. So if you like that, some of it is up already. You can see that. My last thought on this is I think that eventually Japan is less static than the U.S. right in terms of wrestling. And I
Yeah.
think New Japan has benefited from a weird period in that the pressure that would have built to create something new went to create something new in the US, right? And then like the talent had an outlet for going somewhere else. So instead of staying around Japan, starting their own thing and doing their own promotion, they all went to like make a huge amount of money in the US, right? But that kind of clears, and now you're left with like, again, it's a reduced scene somewhat, but you've left with like the people are going to gravitate to the more new exciting stuff, and I think that's not very much not New Japan. It's more like Dragongate, it's more like Stardom, it's more like I mean DDT is a little bit like DDT's got its own thing. I'm not going to talk about them, but effectively like something I think will shift eventually in the market. Either they have to change or like the market will change around them. And you can't have a situation like you have now. You were talking about Takeshita, and Takeshita saying like, oh, Takeshita was basically talking like a babyface and working towards like a babyface turn, even with the whole thing with like the Tanahashi shaking his hand at Windy City Riot and whatnot. He's working towards that. But then the Booker is basically having him like, it's selling him like an invading heel, but then having to
Big
work like a
baby.
face. So like you can't have TVSI pushing something and the president Tanahashi pushing something and Gato kind of getting in his feelings and pushing something else, right? You need to kind of like figure out kind of the room and get like somebody, maybe it's Taro Okada who's running Stardom, who's going to have to like put the final kind of say. And once that happens, that'll clear something up. My idea for New Japan remains that like Takeshita wins the title, beats Sak, and then he drops the title to Okada at Wrestle Kingdom. And then Okada holds the title as a heel, kind of like, I'm too good for you. And just shows up for the big shows, beats up the Reiwa, stocks him like cordwood.
Brock Lesnar's it.
I wouldn't
Yeah,
even,
yeah.
I wouldn't even have I wouldn't even have
wait,
Okada show up for the big shows. Just have him hold the
he shows
hostage title.
Oh
Have
man,
him hold the
Basically,
title hostage.
he would be-
in America.
that's a
If
new
people were
wave
hating on
of
me, like,
Takada. I
That's
just
what
want
I'm
to bring
saying, like,
this
people
up.
were hating on me. They're saying like, I'm saying like, no, Okada, this is the only time you're gonna get Okada as a heel and that kind of role now, because the next time he comes back, like 5 years down the line, he's coming back as a returning babyface, because and then he's
The
coming
hero.
back with his wife to do the talk show circuit and whatnot. And now you get him as like the asshole heel, get him in, and eventually you have one of the Reiwa boys step up and beat Okada. He has to lose. Like Okada has to squash whoever it is. If it's Yoda, like Okada needs to beat him in like 5 minutes the first time. Like just like gets him in, puts him in a rainmaker, 5 minutes, and just calls him a bitch and walks away. Like just treats him like. And then you can have him like maybe a couple of minutes on the line, a big show. He comes back and just kind of wins him a little bit. Like the playbook is the Moxley CM Punk angle, where like just Moxley just beats up just like weak mind, weak body. These guys are beneath me, and then like eventually you build up to that. And I think that like people like get mad at me, but like the signs continue to point to like Tony's kind of booking that direction. If you're clearing some of the stuff, like Okada might show up, like you have him show up to do something else, but like maybe that's not it. I mean, obviously I understand there's politics involved, but you need something where you do need that kind of big heavy, I think, where he just kind of like goes through it, and then somebody has to build up to beat him, which is what AEW did. I think that's essentially what New Japan has to do, that where they just clear. And then somebody has to build through the card to beat that big final boss, right? And essentially, you have to go outside because nobody in that company can be that big final boss right now. There's nobody there that can like be this big monster guy.
Yeah, I mean, like, because 30 years ago we had the Nobuhiko Takada Muto October 9th match. It's one of my favorite matches because they work a 50-50 guard in there. Pump knows that I'm talking about 50-50 guards. And it's one of the most dramatic things because they're trying to lock in like leg locks on each other. And like to your point about Okada, I'm comparing Okada to Takada right now. Takada, one of the initial Hall of Famers for the Wrestling Observer newsletter. And he was an invader. He was someone that saw himself above everybody. You know, the UWFI versus New Japan thing, all out. I think that is what they called their whole big show was like all out battle or something like that. And when I think about that, that's pretty cool. And then, but you know, when I think about what I'm doing, think about Dragon Gate, because like we're not even fantasy booking Dragon Gate. We're just talking about what's happening in Dragon Gate, what's currently going on with Dragon Gate, and they're doing such great things. And I think that juxtaposition that we're doing right now, ladies and gentlemen, between Dragon Gate, Stardom, and New Japan is we're just like comparing, contrasting, and seeing like what's going on. Where like this companies like Stardom and Dragon Gate have the luxury of being a smaller brand, of being not beholden to other powers that be, and are able to like move towards in different projections. And New Japan staying the path because, like Plum said, they're trying to keep the money. They're trying to stay as much on that pathway to keep that money. And you know, hopefully, when we see Aaron Wolf, maybe Wolfomania takes over. You know, maybe it's Wolf time. And
they're gonna like put a pin in it. They're gonna have Wolf join the House of Torture or something. Bullet Club Aaron Wolf. It's like, or like no War Dog Aaron Wolf.
I mean,
like,
he's a dog. He's a wolf, right?
Yeah. I think the key is that we trust these companies like Stardom and Dragon Gate to deliver an interesting product. Where like New Japan, I don't trust their booking at all. Like, so I'm gonna leave the guys. Leave you guys in capable hands. Like, I'm running off. I'm like Brock Lesnar. I work my spot and I need to go catch my flight. So it's been a pleasure, guys. We'll talk later.
Yeah,
thanks
man.
for the time.
Thanks
Talk
so much,
later.
man.
Yep.
Yeah.
Talk to you later.
Here we go, 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 go. I lie, Speed star, it's lightning in the jungle.
Hello again, ladies and gentlemen, and we're back. And you know, thank you for joining us, Turo. You know, I love me talking about those other promotions, whatever they were. You know, but you know, in this part of the show, we're gonna focus on the meat of the matter. You know, and I like meat. I love meat. And that is, of course, talking about the Dragon system. And you know, for me, my love of this style of Lucha Wrestling, it goes back to like. Ultimo Dragon and WCW, seeing like a guy on like Laserdisc Hayabusa, getting to see like on ECW Great Sasuke and Taka Michinoku. We're talking, of course, you know, one of the guys also that I saw in ECW was Gran Hamada, who, you know, if you have a vote in the Wrestling Observer newsletter Hall of Fame 2025 ballots, you should put a vote for one Gran Hamada, because he is the forefather, you know, actually the father of the Lucha Wrestling style, which is, you know, that coincides entirely with the Dragon system, because Ultimo Dragon, you know the story, guys. He went to New Japan. They said, no, you're too small. So he went over to Mexico and, you know, crafted his own style. Same thing like what Liger did. Same thing like with Great Sasuke, Hayabusa. Same thing that Jado Ghetto did. They all went to Mexico to learn this stuff, and they brought it back with them. And from Ultimo Dragon, he birthed Toriumon. And from Toriumon came T2P, Dragon Door, you know, of course, Dragon Gate. And this is something that I have a deep appreciation of. You know, I went to the first Dragon Gate show in America, not Dragon Gate USA, but the first Dragon Gate show. They had it in LA. They had, you know,
it was called Wrestling Society X at the time.
I did go to Wrestling Society X too, but you know, like there was something this week that I saw that I really kind of like connected with, like, because Sema put out a picture of him having like a couple beers with Mandem Tokyo looking like he looks like a Yakuza boss. He looks like the coolest motherfucker still to this day. Sitting with, uh, Milano Connection, AT. We were talking a little bit of Stardom. He's in charge of the Stardom JoJo, and so it's kind of funny that we were talking about Stardom on purpose because now they're part of the Dragon system because of Milano passing down these lessons to them, and you could see it in their work. And and the last guy that was in that picture is probably one of my favorites, and I know Pumpet feels like that too. I'm sure you have an affinity for him too. Ed is, Masato Yoshino, the Speed Star, Lightning in the Jungle. He he is probably one of the most unheralded wrestlers of all time, one of the greatest of all time, the fastest wrestler. He had all the tools. It just sucks that his neck fell out when it did. But he had that run, and go ahead.
I'm just thankful that I got 15, maybe more. I don't remember exactly how many years that he wrestled at such a high level, but I'm so happy that I got the run that I did out of him, especially being one half of one of my personal favorite tag teams called Speed Muscle with Wonderoki Doi.
Yeah, I love Speed Muscle, man. They had like a bunch of matches in WSX. We brought them up, but they also had they were part of like the Dragongate PWG partnership. So when they came over here, oh man, that's when I fell in love.
They also did the World X Cup for TNA.
Oh yeah, for TNA, yeah. So
They did.
yeah, we're seeing we're seeing all this link about them, and Speed Muscle was so great. Naruki Doi still going hard. I miss Doi Darts. Don't you guys miss Doi Darts? I miss Doi Darts.
Always miss Doi Darts.
I'm kind of surprised that we haven't had a Doi Dart session in a while.
Yeah, he should have had him. And we can make these jokes because we've been following this product for God, I've been following this for almost 30 years for me. So it's kind of funny when I still see DK doing flares and he's doing those ring post hangings like nothing.
I think it's hilarious seeing him do the ring post hangings and then him talking Daya into doing it and Daya having such a harder time with doing it than DK.
Seriously, DK is such a legend, man. It's kind of funny because when you talk to a lot of wrestlers, a lot of young Japanese wrestlers of who they looked up to and who inspired them, a lot of them say DK, and you can see it.
Well, didn't Will Ospreay just Will Ospreay was doing an interview talking about his favorite wrestlers, and I think he outright said Dragon Kid was an inspiration to him.
Yeah.
You can directly point to modern day wrestling being the brainchild of peak Dragon Kid. There are other individuals who are doing the indie style, if you want to call it that, as it's currently referenced. But whenever you think of the moves, the flips, the aerobatics, I don't know that there's been anyone to have the longevity doing that style and has been as innovative or creative without sustaining serious injury as Dragon Kid. He is a pinnacle of it.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, it's incredible to think about because at the same age that Dragon Kid is now, how old is
54?
54.
Yeah, the other guy that gets thought of a lot as one of the greatest innovators of the junior style, Jushin Liger, had long since phased out a lot of the stuff that
he wasn't hitting moonsaults into his.
No.
Yeah, but Dragon Kid's still largely doing all the stuff that made Dragon Kid what he was.
Yeah. And I'm gonna take the opportunity at this time because I
stand corrected. He's 49.
49.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Damn, he was young when he started, dude. That was 30 years ago. He would have been 19 when he was just wrestling around in Mexico, and then WCW he was
I think a lot of the initial Toryumon guys were very, very young.
Because Simas is also 47, I think. Also, that's crazy. And dang, I'm just thinking about it right now, because when you think about Dragon Kid, the Dragon Rana, the Deja Vu, I think he was doing the 619 before Rey Mysterio was even doing the 619, and he also references Rey Mysterio as one of his people he looked up to, even though they were like the same age. So it's just when I think of Dragon Kid, I think about greatness, and I'm gonna bring it back to like because I'm gonna plug my shit. So on the Japan ballot, I'm gonna tell you guys right away, I voted Mochizuki because
As
we're
you
talking
should.
we're talking like 31 years of me seeing him, like talking about like him in the Super J Cup wearing the karate gi with the he wore the Ryu cosplay when he first started, and and he's still hitting that springboard the roundhouse kick, the thing that you see like guys like John Morrison and Showtime Anthony Pettis do. It's like when I think of because you think about guys who get in like on the work rate level, like you think I'm gonna name him unfortunately one Mr. Chris Benoit. You think about Tomohiro Ishii. You think about Dynamite Kid, and like I think about like Mochizuki and like what he means to pro wrestling, the style that he innovated with the karate kicks and the high flying. Because a lot of guys weren't doing that. Because I mean, when Otani started after him, and he started doing like the springboard, like spinning wheel kick, springboard drop kick after like Mochizuki was already doing them, and then Mochizuki up until like the 2000s when he finally got into Dragon Gate, and because him and Ultimo had that history in war as young boys under Tenru, and like he just brings that style and that fire, and we're talking about 20 years ago when he was brought in, and then like into 2025 he's still having the matches he has with his son Mochi Jr., and he had that one barn burner match with like Ryoya where he got skinny, and I'd be remiss to say like also him having those amazing matches with Masato Tanaka, Marufuji, and Noah. And like when I think about the work he's done, the longevity in the business, what he's meant to Dragon Gate as sort of he's sort of been like the finishing touches for guys, or sometimes because I think was it like 10 years ago where they just put everybody in Mochizuki-gun, and he was able to rehabilitate guys who had been trained the wrong way for so long.
Basically, the story of that is that they had a lot of the guys coming out of the dojo, including people like Kota Minoura and Shun Skywalker, who were not well trained coming out of the Dragon Gate dojo at the time because of the person who was running it. And so in order to kind of save that class, they created Mochizuki Dojo and put them all on the road with Mochizuki to basically retrain them on while doing the rounds.
Well, as I recall, it was originally supposed to be just Shun, and then it evolved into something more, and that was baked into the storyline of Mochi taking on the rest of the young guys, almost begrudgingly.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that's another thing is Mochizuki, what is apparently not active at all with the training of young boys in the Dragon Gate system.
Not at all.
So this was a big change.
Yeah. Also, another feather in the cap, he has a son that not only doesn't suck, but is actively very good.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I think one thing that I think needs to be said about Mochizuki is he's 55 right now, correct?
Yes.
That sounds right off my yes.
And I feel like this year he's had the match with Tanaka, and I believe he also had was the match with Yamato also this year, or was that just like at the very end of last year?
I don't believe that was this year.
No, it was in June. He had that barn burner of a match with Tanaka, and then he had that incredible Dream Gate match with Yamato. Like, how many other 55-year-old guys are going out there and having legitimately like match of the year contenders?
It's him and Masato Tanaka.
Opponent.
Well,
Yeah.
let's also not skip over one and very important match that he had, within this calendar year that is setting up a current storyline. Is he did have Umare's debut match,
Ooh.
in which
Yeah,
that
that's
was the match in which he chose Shun over everybody.
wow. It's still crazy to me that
That's
Homare has not even been a year in. It's so crazy.
Homare is officially a year in after
Oh.
September.
After September. God. Yeah, he had a whole run already. Jesus.
yeah.
But yeah, like the importance of like Mochizuki when it comes to like the big main events in Dragon Gate. He had big runs. I'm sure like somebody will come over and like they'll comment like, "Oh, lol, big runs in Dragon Gate." Sure, like super no vacancies.
Okay.
Sure, yeah, okay. But like they
I would
always
really show me one other company. Actually, you can't because they still hold it to this day. The Big Six owns the sellout record for Cork and Hall for most consecutive sellouts. So if anybody has an issue and says, "Ooh, it's just Mochi," they got to understand within the broader context that these guys meant something. And just because you weren't watching doesn't mean that these guys aren't pivotal to the story of Japanese wrestling and wrestling as a
Yeah.
whole. You weren't watching, but your favorite wrestlers were. And I know that's a cliche, but they quote them all the time. They steal their moves. They give them credit for all of these things that they did.
Yeah.
We still talk about the ROH six man, which shout out to Tony Deppen. He's the reason that I got to watch that and got me into ROH by virtue of Dragongate. And I got to experience these things in which I got to see the evolution of what we would be known as modern professional wrestling. So
Yeah.
sure, you could say I don't like today's wrestling, and you can hold that against them, but that's kind of irrelevant to the fact of how inspirational they were.
Yeah, I'm gonna name guys because I was on the ground floor for a lot of these guys, and a lot of this was because they had the partnership with Dragongate, like PWG. Pump knows I love PWG. I've been a PWG guy since 2003, literally day one ish, and like they had the partnership with Dragongate. So what we see now on TV, right? Like you guys, the Young Bucks, Sami Zayn, Kevin Steen, Pac. Tony Nese. I could go on and on. Ricochet.
I was about to say, you're going to name Ricochet, Sheba's favorite adopted boy.
Yeah, Wuhan Nation. We're like, and like when I talk about all that, and I talk about like what the modern style is, what we watch like every week on Wednesdays. Oh my god. you like even look at what Roman Reigns does. Look at what Seth Rollins does. Like there's so much. Talk about like John Moxley from Dragon Gate USA. Like we're talking about Johnny Gargano. Like we're talking about like this style, this promotion that birthed all these guys. Like when I think of Pac is like a guy that was just a skinny dude I saw like in LA on an independent, wore yellow shorts, nothing. And then he goes for a year to Japan, goes to the dojo, he comes back, and then like X calls him like Pac Lesnar on when he comes back after his like Japan excursion because he's huge. And Pac, one of my favorites. Pump knows Pac is like he's like my guy because I have 1A, 1B, 1C. 1A is Brian, 1B is Kenny, 1C is Pac, and those like, and even like Kenny Omega, he references like Dragon Gate as like one of his influences because you can't not talk about. And one of like the things that I talk about like with the whole world, Hall of Fame, like the whole Hall of Fame audio is, can the history of pro wrestling be written without XX and X? I don't think the history of pro wrestling can be written without Dragon Gate because of what Dragon Gate represents, what Dragon Gate represents as the modern style, what Dragon Gate represents as who got influence from it, and like we see it today, whether it be in Stardom, in Dragon Gate proper, or even like wherever show you're watching, because like
Every
we
show
talked
you're
about this.
watching these days, that the Dragon Gate style is essentially the house style. Obviously it's all over the place with AEW, but the fact that it's done so much and it's actually cracked through to become like the house style of WWE in so many ways is a testament to
Those Shield trios matches, man.
Dude, Dragon Gate is.
Would Dante Martin have a style if it wasn't for Dragongate?
No.
He would be inspired by UWFI and learn from Nobuhiko Takada tapes.
Oh boy.
Yeah. And like there's also the inspiration for Dragon Gate on Lucha Libre itself because I watch Mystical a lot, right? I love Mystical. Mystical, he's great, but a lot of what he does, like the Deja Vu, a lot of the high flying like West Coast pop stuff and stuff, he cribbed a lot of stuff from Dragon Kid, and and I think that's pretty evident in the work he did. Like I also on my ballot I voted for Hayabusa. Because how the fuck are you not going to vote for Hayabusa? And
every prominent flyer to this day still lists Hayabusa as one of their biggest influences. He's had a resonance past his prime, past his death, that I think has kind of been unmatched by a lot of wrestlers.
Yeah.
Before he was Dragon Kid, he was Hayabusa Kid.
Yeah, and like you think about like. Because like now, how many people are doing the Phoenix Splash? How many people are doing that Swanton into the Lion Salt? How many people are doing like we're even saying like guys do the Falcon Arrow like as finishers nowadays, and like I just think about like the influence that a Hayabusa has, that a Ultimo Dragon has, that a Liger has, even Gran Hamada, like. And it ties to what the modern day equivalent of all those lucha promotions, all the junior divisions back in the day to now. And like, it's Dragon Gate. And you cannot write the history of pro wrestling without a Dragon Gate, especially in the modern times. And like, I say this every time we talk about Dragon Gate because it's a point that I want to push because this, and I slap my hands like I'm on Maury Povich. But like, it's just like, it's something that I have to push because like people kind of push against it. Like when I watch a Yoda Tsuji work and like I'm like, man, if you were in Dragon Gate 10 years ago, you would have been the top guy. You would have been the top guy.
I would love for Tsuji to come over for an extended period of time and just do his thing, in which like he was just bullying guys because he's got the size and he has like that Shingo type of arrogance to him, and he has all of these things in which I appreciate about Tsuji, but he's never going to get a fair shake. And Arturo later on is going to call him the yogurt guy, and I think that's a little disingenuous whenever you remember that like this guy was the most talented one of his class coming out. He was the one that instantly, not to say that he was the best match guy, but he projected better. The second he walked through the curtain during his first debut match, people said, "Oh, he's not like the others."
Even before his return match at Sonata, when he came back and debuted, like instantly people looked at it as like, "Oh, this is a guy."
Yeah,
he has that aura about him.
Yeah, it's like that same thing you see when. Because they had like this tag match, right? With pretty much all of the future guys, like last year. There was like Takeshita, Shun Skywalker, and they even had Yuya and Shota and Tsuji in the match. And then like, Shun, in my opinion, was the guy that outshone everybody. And a lot of people that even covered New
Oh,
Japan.
you're talking about like that Tanahashi show that Shun was on in that tag? Yeah,
Yeah.
It was interesting watching that and seeing how much Shun just kind of outshone everybody and felt like one of the biggest stars on the show. That wasn't Dragon Kid, who did come off as the biggest star on the show.
Yeah. And like we're talking about like guys who cover Japan, New Japan, like they're only covering New Japan. I'm not gonna call you out on your cards on this show because I like all you guys, but like they all said the same thing of Shun is the guy that stood out because he has that charisma, and even though he's wearing a full bodysuit, because we all don't deserve to see his beautiful body. Am I right, guys? We don't deserve to.
That is what a line, right? Is the whole thing is an aesthetic, and it's an aesthetic business, right? So he just swears everyone, and he just said, and Jay on commentary put this over, and I remember watching the show and thinking this is one of the best lines of commentary I've ever heard in my life. where he said, yeah, ask Shun why he started wearing the bodysuit. He said because nobody deserves to see him develop his body. And I said, Shun is playing a different league. This isn't Bush League. This guy's thinking about this in his free time. He's not just putting on tights and doing some moves where he can. And Shun's first 2 years, he was as good of a flyer as anyone's ever seen. He could hit all of the moves. He's still dumb athletic. He's just working a heel bit, so it doesn't require him. Like Shun is has a magnetism that very few guys that you will ever see wrestle have. And I understand the size is always going to hold him back, but he understands professional wrestling, and I appreciate it for what it is.
You say the size holds him back, but when he was on that card with standing next to Tsuji, he was a few inches taller than Tsuji. He's deceptively big. Like I think wearing the bodysuit and being in Dragongate kind of hides it a bit. But when he's on like other shows, he comes off. He is actually a little bit bigger than I think people realize.
Well, there was the show in Denver that he worked. I got to interact with him a little bit at the Denver show that I was at whenever he came over to the U.S. for 1 or 2 shots. And I stood next to him. I bought a sticker off of him.
Is that the one he worked Titus Alexander on? Or
no, that was he worked a lucha show out in the middle of nowhere, Denver. And Australia was in a 3-way match with Mini Juventud, the guy's name escapes me, and Ninja Mac, and they had a really good 3-way. And then Shun was in the final, and he walked out of the curtain. No one got it. By the end, this complete lucha crowd was doing the Shun cackle back at him. He grabs a kid and he's chasing, like he's running around the audience with this child, and he's getting over, and he's one of the best crowd brawlers. I mean this genuinely, one of the best crowd brawlers, if not the best, in all of professional wrestling. And I stood next to him and I said, oh, you're every bit of 5'11". This isn't a work. He is legitimately deceptively taller, but I think in terms of like whenever you think of New Japan, I think of like the WWE philosophy of mass monsters, because they've always had the size since All Japan's kind of gone away, right? As far as we know, All Japan, it's always been New Japan has the 6-foot requirement, and you got to do all of these things, and you got to be a certain size. So that's really that's really how I impose that idea about Shun coming up a little bit small. Now, in contextual, I guess I should look at New Japan's modern roster and say, oh, they're not getting the 6-footers anymore.
Yeah, those guys are all in New Japan.
Over the past few years,
those guys are on All Japan.
You look at Kato, you look at I really wish we would have got TN Revolution. TN Revolution was going to be the guy, and he was every bit of 6'2", 6'3". We got these 2 tall guys now, right? And now it's Dragongate that's getting a lot of the size, and New Japan is having to rely on the guy Jin for that. It's a really turn of a tale. Because
I look at like All Japan with the Yuma Anzai, with Aoyagi, with the Saitos. Those guys are all big. It's called Tall Japan for a reason. Ed knows. And like DDT also has like those super big buff tall dudes too. So I don't even know what if New Japan like still has a height requirement, because they're not recruiting these big handsome buff Japanese men, not since Kitsumura, RIP. And having that kind of size quotient in Dragon Gate is like you're seeing the kids who grew up watching this Dragon Gate stuff and wanting to go to the Dragon Gate dojo. They're seeking out the dojo themselves, and like the dojo system there is different. It's like
or they just have a chance run in, or they just go to have like a picture signed by Ultimo Dragon, and he goes, "Hey, you're kind of tall. Do you want to just join the Dragon Gate dojo?"
Hey, Okada.
Yeah.
No, that's what he did with Kazuma Kimura, the current new young boy.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
He just said, "Come on, little boy, let's go wrestle." And like
Ishimori, Okada, Ibushi, those are all proper Ultimo guys. And
Yeah.
this isn't a new thing. Is over the course of history, it's reflected kind of well that Dragon Gate's always kind of had him first, and it's really depending on whether or not how not. This is a kind of an exception for Okada, obviously, but it really depends on how hard you want to work.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think there's a couple of things I wanted to touch on though with Shun. Like the reason I asked about whether or not it's a match with Titus Alexander is because I think I saw that match that he did on the U.S. Indies, and one of the things that I think that's the match where Shun just grabs a child and tries to use him as a weapon.
It's a thing that he's been commonly doing. Give
Yes.
me 1 second. I'll keep talking and I'll pull up the show.
But Shun's one other fun thing that's been going on with Shun, with the story of Shun Skywalker, is there's so many great pictures now of Shun in his full Shun Skywalker gear, holding crying children. It's so perfect.
Esfinge, that's who he wrestled. Esfinge.
Okay.
Replacement level luchador.
Yes. But the thing with Shun that is so impressive is, as he pointed out, he is very much thinking about every step of the way. And one of the things that I've noted with our last panel show discussing Dragon Gate is Shun's already laid out all the different little steps that he's going to have to take to let you know that he is a full face again. It is ditching the bodysuit and going back to showing off his marvelous physique. It is him using the Ashla again, which is another thing that he's really avoided using in this entire run. And it is him going back to embracing all the different moves of Shun Skywalker. Like, it's kind of insane to think about that all the hype with Shun and the accolades that people throw towards his work is happening when Shun is maybe using about 60% of what he can actually do.
Yeah.
He has completely changed his style in this heel run and in this character.
Dude.
And I think what makes it work so well over other people that I've seen this do is he's so physical with everything he does. Every step that he takes, it just feels like you're about to actually fight you're gonna fight a monster. And
he's a roughhouse.
He throws these amazing pump kicks in all his matches. He hits these really crazy hard lariats. It really feels like you're watching a psychopath just maul somebody in his matches, and that bleeds through so much into his work.
Even that assisted moonsault that he's been doing with Amara as a finish, right? Even that looks like it has high impact. Like nothing he does, it doesn't look like
velocity.
Yeah. Even his general moonsault, where he's coming down with his knees, looks like death.
Yeah.
Poor Ben K.
For Ben K, it was.
Good God. That
lariat that came before that. But yeah.
Because
one other thing I wanted to touch on before we got too far is kind of another thing that that Pump brought up is we really need to give a hand to Jay, who does the English commentary for Dragon Gate and ran the most prominent Dragon Gate fan site for years kind of doing his part in building the current fan base with the product. I feel like a large part of its current resurgence and popularity amongst the hardcores in the wrestling sphere is because of how effective Jay's been at his commentary job.
I have nothing but immense amount of respect, and obviously I've read I Heart Dragon Gate, right? I was on the forums. It came across my desk more than a few times, and I think he's evolved in such a way. Especially, it's wild to think that we have him, somebody so passionate about the promotion that happens to speak both languages. That's not too many promotions have the guy that's willing to do that level of that has at one investment, two ability. he tries really hard to get everything over that he possibly can. And that's
Yeah.
important because I'll listen to other promotions and they'll have the English commentary and they're just kind of going through the motions. There's no
Yeah.
banter.
Noah's English commentary.
I
'Cause-
didn't want to be specific. I
Yeah.
don't want to be too negative or harsh on him, but like it is Noah for all intents and purposes.
Oh, David Pickering, nice guy. I'm not gonna comment, like, cause
I'm sorry,
I'm gonna
Kyle.
put over. Yeah, I don't burn bridges here. Like the guy, like, cause Jay is awesome, right? And he doesn't even come from a broadcasting background, right? I don't think he did anything sports broadcasting in America before he went and like uprooted his life to go to Japan and do this, like, as the voice of the English speaking fans. I think he like does a tremendous job. Also, I want to say this because he's my guy. Ho Ho Loon. If you ever need tickets to a Dragongate show, if you ever like, there's a
You want any
just-
Dragongate merch too? He's
Merch,
the
too.
guy to hit up.
Yeah, like if you have questions like about how the seating works, how it all works, like just hit him up on X. Great guy. Hopefully he already confirmed that he's gonna do an interview with me sometime. I'm saying that here because whatever. I'm trying to make it a reality, but Japan and America time wise is difficult. But like he's probably one of the nicest guys I've interacted with. He's all for pushing Dragon Gate and all for helping like foreign people be able to get to these shows because like I made a joke about this, like how like Chinese and Japanese companies and Korean companies would usually have what they call a window worker, right? Someone like a foreigner they put like in the window so that you makes your company look more international, more successful. And like I'm not sure that's what he's doing, but like you kind of see like all these American Western faces at a Dragon Gate show. It's probably because they had DM'd Ho Ho Loon about how it works. And there's more guys that also do speak English and will help you out. But yeah, he hit up Ho Ho Loon. I also because English is like his third language because he speaks Mandarin, Canto, English, some Japanese. So like I know like a lot of people like are like whatever on his commentary, but I'm like, that's just the spice of life is variety.
I
just
love Ho Ho's
English is not his first
commentary.
language.
I love it.
Oh
the,
wow.
the way in him and Jay, whenever it happens ever so often, but something comedic will happen and they won't try to no sell it. They actually lean into the
They will
comedy,
bust stuff.
which I appreciate. Which adds so much value to like, oh, okay, they're watching the show along with us, as opposed to just trying to just tell us as if it's a radio broadcast. And
Yeah.
it does really go a long way to adding something to the actual element of Dragon Gate because there is comedy there. It's not a comedy promotion. But they do intentionally comedic things throughout matches to try to get you engaged.
Right.
Like Ultimo wouldn't be doing the dragon thing where he would get people to stop hitting him by throwing up his hand if it wasn't intentional comedy. It's fun.
Yeah,
Or I think the thing that always redeems anything with Ho Ho is he has passion for everything
Yeah.
that he's watching. You could tell he is having the time of his life watching these Dragon Gate shows and talking about them with Jay. And that, to me, is something that gets missed with a lot of commentary these days and why I don't think some of it's that effective. It's like, yeah, it's very polished, but it doesn't, I don't feel any more emotionally engaged listening to it because I don't sense that the people who are actually paid to be there are emotionally engaged with it. But Ho Ho, he always feels like this is the best thing that he's doing today.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's wild, right? Because like Ho Ho was I think one of the most underutilized three-mans that's ever existed in Dragon Gate of Kung Fu Masters, and there's been such things in which like we talk about Jason Lee and everybody loves Jackie Kamei, right? Jackie's
Yeah.
great. And then there's Ho Ho, who's just playing his part to such an exceptional level that always needs recognition because he's never gone out of his way to put himself in the forefront, even whenever he could have. And he's been the only guy to appear within AEW television. That's whenever he was still freelance. Obviously, for certain political reasons, that won't happen again, not for the foreseeable future. But he was that guy that got called upon and showed up. And I appreciate how much he's willing to push Dragongate as a brand.
Yeah, he rules. He's a really nice guy. I love putting that brother over because, we often don't see. I mean, we do see Japanese wrestlers come over here and do all this stuff, but we often don't see like guys from Hong Kong, guys from Singapore, guys from mainland China. Although Tian Bing's doing his own thing. Shout out to you, Jason Chen in NXT. I just I always put over my other Asian brothers. It's just there's this palpable like passion you feel from Jay and Ho Ho on commentary, and like that's part and parcel of what I see in comparison to Pump said. Like some guys just feel like they're doing it as their job. They put on that announcer. Yeah, going on tonight we have like that broadcast voice, and it's just it's something that's different about them. And again, they're able to do this kind of work. And a lot of the times, like we also see like Genki Horiguchi like as the third man in the booth with the other guys, and then the Japanese commentary is great. It's great. But for my money, I love
how sometimes Dragon Gate will just have. I think Jay's confirmed it that a couple of times they'll just have somebody join the English commentary as a joke. Like they'll send Susumu over there to sit down, and Susumu maybe knows like 6 words in English, and he's just he's just kind
shout
of
out to the
there.
Jumbo Lariat. Love Susumu.
Oh man, I love Susumu. Like he came over from PWG. I know those Dragon Gate guys. They really love Carl's Jr. That might be called Hardy's where you're at, Ed. But like whenever like I would see Shingo,
no, it's called Carl's Jr. around here, and also does not exist around this area. It makes me sad because their breakfast is awesome.
It is.
I grew up on Hardy's. Firmly. It was either Hardy's for lunch and Bojangles in the morning.
Yeah, if you ever like want to like be in like Shingo Takagi's good graces, get him like get him a double Western, and he will love you.
As Shingo Takagi's #1 fan, I'm obligated if I ever meet him to get him a double Western now.
Yeah,
because those guys they love their Carl's Jr. and every time I would see them like come in, it's just like Carl's Jr. or like In and Out. It's always those two things, and people come to SoCal, and we're talking about comedy wrestling, right? How comedy, it's not just inherent like in Lucha Resu, because you see the Michinoku Pro, the Osaka Pro, where they do like that dance thing, but it's like inherent with Lucha where we see the minis, and they do the funny things, or the Exoticos, and Dragon Gate isn't immune to having an Exotico with Yosuke Santa Maria, or like who was one of the guys this year that's having their retirement year? It started like last year, like in December, right? Hiroshi Tanahashi. There's a couple of matches he's done for Dragon Gate where he just looks alive compared to what he's done in New Japan. And like,
I mean, you want to open that can of worms? Okay, I guess we're gonna go right into it.
Oh boy!
Like, because when you think about, we were talking about
him walking out of the curtain for that Stalker Ichikawa match, and him being perplexed at the reaction that he got, which was favorable, right? Like it was this like kind of thing of ooh and awe to see Tanahashi out in a Dragon Gate ring, and he kind of embraced it to an extent that I don't think people are ready for, and I ate it up. And Ed's going to touch on this, and we're probably going to spend a good 10 on this of the fact that President Ace, the sitting president of the biggest Japanese wrestling promotion, gave his move to not the guy that everybody was expecting, not even the guy in Dragon Gate everybody was expecting. He gave it to Yoshioka, who everybody unanimously thinks is such a great wrestler, and I do too. And he now has the high fly flow. So I do want to take a moment to say, like, suck it, New Japan. Sorry, hate it for you.
Yeah, because
Yeah,
like, oh man, you know, we joke about it on every show about like him always having to side eye Ryoya, just having to like say like, oh,
Him
did
sizing up
I know his
Ryoya,
mom?
just saying, I know, I know. Yeah, it's
yeah, you
it's
know,
savage.
every time he walks past Rio, yeah, he is mentally going through his list of like, okay, did I have anything with a Tanaka in this town? And but him
And then
giving. Mhm.
And then the reason, I know that you were probably going to touch on this. Sorry for cutting you off. As far as the reason given, but I think it's more so, and I don't think that Tanahashi wants to say why, and that's his absolute right. As he said, the reason that he gave it to Yoshioka is because he thinks he's a great representation of his hometown, and because they're both from Gifu, I believe, and
Yeah.
they went to the same high school.
That's deep,
Yeah,
man.
they
Like,
yeah, they went to the same high school. They were part of the same. I think they were part of the same clubs as well.
clubs. Yeah.
But Yoshioka getting the high fly flow is just such an indictment of the current generation and a statement on what the state of New Japan is at the moment. I think it's something that I was going to touch on when if we did a match by match breakdown, but I guess I'll get into it right now. I watch
Please.
I watch Yuki Okioka right now, and all I can, and especially now that he has the high fly flow, I can't help but think that, boy, he's kind of what the dream would have been for Yuya Uemura. You know, he's basically
Mm.
what Uemura could be if Uemura actually had like the
Charisma.
put all the little pieces together and make it work. Both of them have. Yoshioka has this. Doesn't have a very complicated style. He doesn't do a ton of really intricate moves, but what he does very well, and he has just enough flair to his stuff that it keeps you engaged. And that's something that's been missing with Uemura this entire time. Like I get on a technical level, his work is very good, but there's just nothing beyond those arm drags to me. So I think it's hilarious that Yoshioka is the one who ends up with the high fly flow after they kind of been softly teasing it into Japan for Uemura.
Yeah. I mean, Uemura's
Yeah.
been doing the high fly flow. They call it the high fly flow, but Yuki Yoshioka does the full extension, gets the height. He has the same. He has the same frame that kind of Tanahashi did, like in 2005. So you know, like he can build on that frame, and it's just he also has like sort of that wholesome energy. You know, wholesome. Like when it comes to Tanahashi, I know like he was a fuckboy, legendary fuckboy. Him and Taue, like those are the two fuckboys in Japan. But
Well,
he
I wonder how much of that babyface energy comes from the fact that we lost him for 13 months. I believe it was 13. It might have. I forgot the exact time frame or the length of time
I think it's
that he was
18
out because of
months.
his eye surgery. 18 months. I knew it was substantial, and we lost him for so long, and we were just counting down the days, and they
yeah.
kind of held up Dragon Dia for a long time while he was out.
It held
Yeah.
up all of D Courage for a bit, it felt like.
Yeah.
Because before Yoshioka came back, especially after Kakuta drops the Dreamgate, it really feels like they were D Courage was in this really weird spot where they weren't quite sure what to do with this unit. And then when Yoshioka came back, ironically that's when they also made the massive shift with Kakuta turning eventually. But
Yeah.
I mean,
That helps him.
great
Man.
for
That
all of
helps
us.
him.
Yeah.
Cause like it kind of puts D Courage like in like perspective, and I know him and him and Dia are campeones de parejas, but like there's something still there. You know, I liked him when he was Dia Inferno. I liked him. Yoshioka has like a style about him and a wholesomeness about him that I could see him put in a position where he's going up against this version of Kakuta, this Kakuta who doesn't think his shit stay, who is like this big bad bully. Like that match with Benkei, man, he hits those like 2 lariats to finish him off. Nothing fancy. He hits a lariat, 2.999, gets in the corner, does the discus Brody Lee special lariat, gets the win, and like he was wearing his t-shirt the whole time, and like he just has this energy about him now, like this kind of swagger, where he knows he's like the biggest bull in the woods, as Dusty Rhodes would say, like, and he just has this confidence that he has now that he didn't have in his initial run. And to speak to your point, Ed, I think you said this like on the prior like panel we were on about how he's similar to Shingo in that vein, where Shingo had that face run, where they tried it with him, but it didn't quite click. But it was in that second run, that heel run, where it turned on for Shingo, and I think it's turning on for this guy. And he was way younger than Shingo when Shingo got the second heel run. So this is just great, man. For both of you guys, like just to give a little bit of like background to the audience, like Ed has been trying to talk Dragon Gate on his own podcast forever. So like part of me wanting to do this also was to give my boys Pump and Bidoof like this stage where they can like talk about their love. I know I can feel it, and I know you can feel it. The people listening can feel it. Like, we love Dragon Gate. This is something that we are passionate about, and it's like something that goes back years now, and just having that appreciation for this and seeing what they've done, what they've accomplished with this small like independent that was just supposed to be Ultimate Dragons like vanity promotion where he's just training kids to like become wrestlers. And I think this birthing from just being like a small gym in Mexico into becoming like, you know, all these different promotions that, you know, we talked to, so you got like Gleet, you have Dragon Gate proper, there's a Teruomon X in Mexico. Yeah,
Gleet for now.
Until Mr. Sema blows it up. And it's it's just great that I can share this with you guys, and share with you guys who I'm talking to now, but also share it with my fan base. That's so weird to say my fan base, but I do have fans. That's kind of crazy to me to say that. I'm not trying to like flex, but it's just like weird. I have people like that email me and like say, "Hey, and that's just weird because I just started this as the joke about this is me and Pump were joking about starting this podcast, right? And Pump was always like making notes, like, I guess I'm gonna have to produce this. I also gotta do all this editing because, you know, I say some problematic things, and it's just like, and that's where the name Problematic Dragon comes up. And with Ed and Pump and we're able to like, this is the discussions people that we've had on like Discord for like years. So to put that onto like audio, I think that's just awesome. I just wanted to take a little bit of time from this show just to say like thank you guys again for like pretty much joining me on this, and like we're all of us like just putting Dragon Gate on this pedestal because it deserves to be there.
So, I mean, yeah, thank you so much for having us. I wanted to touch on something with Kakuta and kind of what I was talking about when Arturo was on, is this has really been a year to just realign Kakuta and get things straight with him. Because they figured it out. The Dreamgate run was a bust. That him kind of as this goofy baby face who in a lot of ways felt like the third or fourth wheel in D-Courage also wasn't working. So they broke him away. They turned him heel, and I love this rough edge that he's kind of had to him, and it kind of feels like for something that happened as an accident on that one Korakuen where he got busted open, hitting one of the signs, and during the crowd brawl. It felt like that was the moment, that was the time that he like threw the switch on whatever this was that has just been bubbling under the surface with him. Because it's been since then that he's kind of had this more dangerous edge to him that he's always lacked.
Yeah, I also think working the Champion Carnival I know a lot of people hated this year's Champion Carnival in All Japan, but like he was crafting this style in that Champions Carnival because he's a big boy and All Japan's full of big boys, so like he's standing there with like Cyrus, with the Saito Bros, with Aoyagi and Yuma Anzai, and he doesn't look out of place at all, like trading bombs with these guys because he's a big boy. Like and I think that run there during the Champion Carnival was also part of him evolving his style because he's working with these guys who are bigger than him or the same size, and he's having to be brutal. That's what I call it, brutal, because like he really lays those forearms, those elbows, those lariats, the hip attack, the butt bump. He really lays it in with his ass. I gotta say that because
he has to have one of the hardest hitting. Like I never really bought into the hip attack or that she calls it the rear view if Naomi's doing it, as a legit move until I started seeing him do it and the speed and how hard he gets for the impact with it. It's remarkable.
Yeah, I would love to take a rear view from Naomi, please.
Hey, this is not a horny pod.
Yeah, but like
I see now why this is the problematic Dragon Pod.
But
if there was ever a pod, I suppose it would be the problematic Dragon Pod.
But yeah, like there's a guy that from back in the day, Shiro Koshinaka, right? He would use this. He's a bloody brawler. Yeah, he like had like a couple of matches with Muda where he would carve people up. But his big main attack, we think about Japan, the people who do the butt attack. It's Shiro Koshinaka, Ryusuke Taguchi, Asuka, and now Kikuta. These are the ass people of Japan, and Kikuta's happens to be the god. I never thought I would win seeing that, but like the one he hit on Benkei in that last match was, geez, like it knocked him like into next week. It's crazy how he can. It's like crazy.
It really does. It really helps emphasize it when Benkei has been doing this for a few months now, where occasionally he will just take a bump like he's been knocked out by Shun again in that one match. He does the exact same bump itself for it.
Yeah, Benkei rocks, man. And
talk about a guy that rehabbed himself.
Yeah, and love and peace, man. Love and peace.
Love and peace.
This is the subject that I really want to get into. This show did not do any favors to my conspiracy theory about Hyo being the Sonichu medallion of units, because Love and Peace walks out of the show winless. Again.
We brought up Sonichu on this thing. Oh my god.
Still as over as ever.
Yeah, he still gets still gets that money in his drawers, They're still putting money in the front of his trunks. Leaving their hand there for way too long. Man, Hyo has the best gimmick.
While we're talking about that match, let's kind of touch on this, as we're going through the card bit by bit. What did you guys think of the new luchadors, the Brothers of the Jungle? Hermanos de la Jungle.
Arrow Panther and Fight Panther Jr., right?
Correct.
Yeah. Who Jay and Ho-Ho argued amongst each other for like 2 minutes on which one was which. That was great.
The subtle comedy.
I didn't know who was who. Where did they come from? Like what independents were they working before they came over to Dragongate?
As I am not sure of their history. It's kind of, as I was going through their cage match, it's really a bevy of things. They just kind of Mexico isn't, if it's not CMLL or AAA, it's not as refined as you would think it is, and
I was
their
just gonna
history.
throw out, like, if they're just freelancers in Mexico, it's probably like a bunch of IWRG or DTU matches.
As that was a common thing. I posted that match within our group chat, and that's the familiarity that I got with them. Was working that Dragon Kid match with SB Kento and Fujiwara, or
Ooh.
yeah,
Yeah.
Fujiwara, and uh, which was wild to see Dragon Kid in a match with those guys for obvious reasons. But that was the first familiarity that I got from these guys, and even their cage match is kind of a difficult task to even hunt down because they're really just off the beaten path largely.
And you know what? Like, because Dragon Gate does have this history of taking guys, taking Gaijin from like the scraps, like a Johnny Valletta, you know, Tony Nese, like Wuhan Nation when they're nothing, and then they become something within Dragon Gate. They do have a history of that, so I know, like,
Yeah.
I know Toro loves Oni El Bendito. Like, to me, he's like a funny comedy wrestler because there's always one big botch that he does in every match. But these guys are pretty solid. I see them like as pretty solid. They were pretty unremarkable to me, like as far, but like the work is good. They're solid guys.
I feel
Just scrolling through their cage match, it works like they look DTU, Desastre Total Ultraviolento.
That makes sense.
Disaster Total Ultraviolence, and there is some AAA sprinkled in there. They've got a CMLL DTU joint show, but it looks like DTU is their home promotion.
Yeah.
I know how to call them, don't I?
Yeah. We're talking about Mr. Lucha Ed over here. And they're able to take these talents that like nobody like has done anything with really and make them into their own thing, like Flamita.
Bendito.
Bendito, like
Monte.
Monte in general. Yeah.
Monte in general, like, and like I sort of hope they just kind of like swipe Los Golpeadores, because geez, talk about guys who fit in like right away, guys who like I kind of make a comparison with them and the Lucha Bros, but like they are like so much better put together physically. Like their Lucha Bros like were in like the SEMA era of Dragon Gate, because they're both like jacked. Because
Very tan.
yeah, that's
Very
the joke.
tan.
If you need to be tan, jacked, have abs, and do flips to be someone who stands out to SEMA, and those guys would definitely work in the SEMA era. But like, and hopefully, though, I just like how Dragon Gate's able to bring in lucha guys and have them adapt to like the style and the lifestyle, because they would also send guys to Mexico for a little bit of excursion differently, because they just work the indies. Sometimes they'd stay at Ultimo Dragon's house in Mexico, and I'm not gonna get into Kento and Fujiwara, but sometimes things happen, and like it's just an interesting system of how they develop their talent, and like the people who get to go on the excursions and people who like get to go like on. It's a different kind of excursion, because like you'll see like Estrella on the same show as like the rest of the Dragon Gate guys, because Estrella is kind of like the liaison for them. He didn't pan out like as a guy, but like he's panned out as far as being a connection for guys to be able to work in the U.S. and Canada, which I think is pretty cool.
Absolutely.
As far as what I thought of the Panthers, like, for two guys who, this is probably like one of the bigger spots that they've done, other than like those handful of shots with AAA or maybe a cup of coffee with CMLL. I thought they looked fine.
Yeah.
Like this,
Okay.
I think there's something there. It needs polish, but I think they largely handled themselves pretty well, give all things considered. And they were in there with like what I felt was the this is something they've done quite a bit now with the various luchadors that they bring them in. Is they have them in there with what I think are like the safest combination of guys that they could have. And right now in the world, I can't think of a better tag team that you could just throw two random guys that you don't know how it's going to go with than Jackie and Rita.
That is the safest match you can have.
Yeah,
Yeah.
if Jackie and Rita are just they're my tag team of the year. They're so good.
They just have this, like, you just want to cheer them. That's the thing. Like, I mean, it's always been like that with Jackie, where, like, you know, when he was in Natural Vibes, he just has this, like, you just want to cheer him. And Rita, like, because he's so small, you have to cheer him. It's just like,
Well, beyond just that, I don't know how they function as a unit short of just they actually have a telepathic connection, because it feels like they're constantly just in the right place, right time. They know what the other is thinking or about to set up, and they just go with it.
yeah.
Well, that's the beauty of the Dragon system, right? Is whenever, unless you're in a title situation, whether it's the Brave Gate or the Dream Gate, typically you're in these 6-mans or these tag team matches, and you're doing X number of dates a year, and you're wrestling across the entire roster on the small shows that we'll never see because either they don't make tape or one reason or another. So they're just constantly all working each other, and it's not the thing in which they're just writing it out and they're like just working a tour against the same old like you would in the territory days, where Hulk Hogan would take Orndorff on the road for 3 months, 5 months until the blow off. It's a thing in which it's a constant rotation, and the roster all gets to interact with each other. So by the time that you work a match, you're in a tag team, you'll have wrestled against each other X number of times and wrestled with each other an X number of times.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that is so. Like, I think if you ever look at the number of dates somebody in Dragon Gate does compared to like New Japan or any of the others, they kind of are close to double the dates that everybody else works. At least double the amount of matches in ring time.
Okay. So if I were to ask you this year alone, already up to this point, how many matches do you think Luis Monte has wrestled? What would be a number in which you would think it being the first or second week of October?
Oh boy. I would guess, and I'm coming at with the idea of like the larger Dragon Gate schedule. I'm guessing he's got to have worked at least 100 matches this year.
125 matches up to this point.
Damn. Good God.
For people who are enjoying Luis Monte now, it's worth remembering when he came in as just Diamante, he was not considered very good at all.
Oh, no.
Well, up until before Dragon Gate, which he started working in 2018, he had 26 matches, 22 matches, 28, going from most recent to later, and then he had 57. 2012 was the last year in which he worked a significant number, and that was 76. He has worked more matches per year since coming into Dragon Gate than any other given year of his career. He started at 80, and last year he worked 156. So there's an offhand chance that he might eclipse his current record or his current matches worked record of last year at 156. He might get over that.
Because he's also working like those Magic Mondays for Noah a lot.
Yeah, he is. That's on his.
So it's just like, it makes sense because since he lives over there, and like, you know, there's a lot of like brother, like, well, I guess it'd be hermano stuff over there. So, because like a lot of the luchadors like work where all the luchadors are working. So it kind of makes sense to me. You know, like,
he's worked two Noah matches, and one freelance Wrestling in Japan show. So there's only up to 125. Only 3 were not in Dragon Gate. So he's worked 122 Dragon Gate matches.
Dragongate is the hardest schedule in Japan because they have to do these shows to
You're gonna
keep.
hit those
Yeah,
dates, brother.
Yeah, you're
You know
either
what?
gonna sink or swim, man. Because and you if you don't improve after like your first year, it doesn't make sense to keep bringing you on. So like it's just you're always working, and there's no chance for you to slack off. I mean, and if you do, then that's on you, brother. Because like we talk about the other Love and Peace match. We talk about the opener with Mochizuki Dojo versus Sahara and Mochizuki Jr. And Fuda, they're trying something with Fuda.
He has been getting a lot more focus on him over the past couple of months. I feel I do feel like we saw what his ceiling was going to be in that match with Tanaka. But
Yeah.
you know what? That's still good for a guy that a lot of people were just kind of largely shrugging about with what you even do with a Fuda.
I don't need
See-
Fuda to be a star. I at this point, and I see this roster playing out. There's so many guys with real star potential. I need Fuda to be not. I don't want to say it in any type of way. I don't want to call him a good hand. I just need him to be a capable, functioning wrestler in which can get some stuff over.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's something that gets lost in a lot of places. It's something that gets lost sometimes, I think, in the talk with New Japan about how much they need stars. It's like, yeah, they really do need a new top guy, but they need guys in general up and down the card. And that's something that I think Dragon Gate is very cognizant of. And with Fuda, I'm happy that it seems like he's found a place for himself.
Yeah. And like there's also that D-Courage trios match where they defeated Natural Vibes because it will never be KZ time. I finally have thrown in the towel on it ever being KZ time. I know it's like 5 years too late to do that, but I thought that match was pretty good. Like, cause like on these shows, like the tag matches that we're talking about, like they end pretty fast. Cause the opening tag, the other trios tag where we saw Paradox, and like that second match, the old man match. I love that old man match. It was like I think like 8. Well, let me see what time it was, how long it was. It was like
Couldn't be any more than 8 minutes.
yeah, yeah. It was like 8:44. Punch Tomonaga's gonna take the fall because he always does. But like that old man match was so fun. And these shows, like we're talking about, like they do so many shows, but a lot of these matches, these trios matches and tag matches, they don't go for too long because they have another town to hit, so they're not going to go all out on these. They're like it's Korakin, right? But they're not going to kill each other for this town because they got to make the next town.
Right, that Paradox match served the purpose of let's get Yamato and Dragon Kid and BB Hulk on the card.
Yeah, these are still your draws. Like 20 years for 15 years on, there's still names. They could still bring people to the building, and yeah, it's just Paradox had a way better night than Love and Peace. I gotta say that.
Go ahead.
Oh no, that was it.
Well, one of the things I was going to note with the vibes is they seem to be telling a story where Strong Machine J is starting to be frustrated, and he's really somebody that he's also listed with their Ray was 6. I think for a while some people didn't see it, and over the last year or so, people have really started to understand why Jay's in that conversation.
Yeah,
But I think Jay's kind of in an interesting position where right now the vibes do feel like a unit that is struggling to maintain its relevancy, and by extension, it's Jay struggling to maintain his relevancy because he's supposed to be the head of the vibes.
yeah.
I really think that they just need. I don't want to call it expired or past due, but it is definitely bringing Jay down as far as his ceiling, because I think that going back to the cage match last year, and we really got to see that glimpse of just what he could be in terms of the is he or isn't he going to join Shun thing, and then ultimately hitting him with the chair and costing him the match, and definitely deciding that he was going to take the role. I think that I saw a lot in Strong Machine J, and I think Vibes is now getting to a point in which it's holding him back.
Yeah.
I think it's a I think it's a unit that, I mean, it has to be one of the ones that's it. Anytime there's a discussion about a unit breaking up, Vibes always comes up because it's the longest tenured unit right now in Dragon Gate. It's one that's kind of had the most little mini shakeups, but it's also one that it does at various points, barring a new member joining, always kind of is right on the edge of feeling long in the tooth. And I think we're about there with Jay, especially with the idea that Kakuta was challenging. Kakuta did kind of put Jay on notice in his quest to get back in with Kakuta's quest back to the top.
Yeah.
He had that street fight with Jay. It was brutal. It was vicious, and it ended with him saying, you know, you're just not it right now.
I think that should probably stir something, and I think that, you know, if it because you can see growing disgruntlement within Jay's character, and I do think that there is a thing in which they're kind of just trying to do the Dragon Gate thing, where it's not the moment because everybody has something to do right now, and the top of the card is kind of full. So I think they're slow playing it in such a way that I think this is where patience, and I understand that I've been patient now with it because it is growing. It has been long in the tooth for a certain period of time, but I think it's a thing in which we need to be patient, and it'll eventually happen. I just don't know if they're going to overshoot the whole thing. I don't know if Strong Machine, if it's going to get to the Tyler Black situation where they just completely just lose all momentum with the guy.
Yeah, that's a possibility. Because like sometimes you kind of run for too long and then you don't hit it at the right point. But you know, I trust them and their booking because, you know, this was obvious in the way like they come out, and you know, usually when they come out, like Strong Machine J is like hype and like putting the dancing, but here he looked angry. He looked mad that they lost. He looked mad during the match that like they kept fucking up. It was.
Let's also give him compliment as Jay's mask is completely full face. He doesn't have an opening for his mouth or anything, but through his body language, you always know what that man's thinking and feeling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
he emotes as well as any. I don't want to minimize him and call him not a true luchador. But like he, as any traditional Mexican luchador, he portrays himself in such a way, and he projects in a way that you can always see whenever something is really irking him, or he's annoyed, he's angry, he's happy, and it is a real testament to the effort that he's put in to develop his character. And I don't know if he ends up. We talk about guys who might lose their masks. I don't know if he recovers. Like Monte still struggles too.
I mean, because his dad would put on the mask, take off the mask just for like certain matches, right? So like his dad kind of didn't fall into like those lucha rules about like you lose your mask and all that stuff. Like, because I did like his dad. I like Super Strong Machine. I like the devil. I love that he does the devil arm lock suplex finish. And there's something there to him. I don't know, like we brought this up a little bit earlier, but like. He's another guy that didn't get the go to go to the New Japan dojo because he was too short. He was too short for them, and his dad said, "Fuck you guys, my son is gonna go to Dragon Gate." And because he actually grew up watching and enjoying Dragon Gate, because like his dad would bring him to the New Japan dojo, and he would be like, "So boring." But then him personally, he loved the Dragon Gate style, so. It's sort of like his dad's fuck you to New Japan, like, hey, look, my son is actually going to be something here in a certain amount of time that he would have ever been in your system. So just saying, that's a fun thing to have with him. And you know, like I thought overall the card was really good, capped off by a main event that was very good. And
I think it's remarkable that we haven't really touched on the Triangle Gate with Gajadokuro defending against the Shun Force.
because we kind of went all over the finish and the finish of it, where they threw out him, but that match was pretty good. The match was good though.
That match has me convinced that that Kazuma Kimura has a real chance of being like the guy.
How many matches is this for?
That match was. I think that was like 12.
I truly believe that is like. Give me 1 minute. I'll let you know. Keep speaking on it, and I'll come back around.
I think that match was built specifically around highlighting Kimura and showing what he could potentially be.
Yeah.
God, he looked so good. And the thing that's really impressive about it is it's not just the technical stuff with him. He manages to have all the intangibles as well, because when he had specifically Kato in that triangle, you could just hear it from the fans. They were eating it up, just like they did in the All Japan tag when he had that tease of tapping out Inoue. The people are already behind him. They want this. They want him to win.
Does he have a shoot background? Because he has the best.
He's a judoka.
Okay, he has the best mounted punches I've ever seen in wrestling. I know you both played you played Revenge and stuff. Like how Akiman had the ultimate punches grapple thing. His punches are so good.
His official says that he studied judo and sambo since the 5th grade. He's a properly trained shoot fighter. Like, he would be in vain a UWF guy.
Yeah, there's a thing we were talking about them earlier.
He does not have an official cage. He doesn't have an official cage match.
Oh, okay. So, because he doesn't have enough matches yet. And then we have a couple guys with the shooter backgrounds in Dragon Gate. There's a lot of judokas. Mochizuki Jr. is a karateka. Rita is super. He's a super elite grappler. I've seen his training sessions. He sort of reminds me of Rita. Sorry, Irita. Mino Rita. He sort of reminds me of slight body wise. If he gets there, he could be Ishimori Sito. Imagine that, Ishimori Sito. If he gets in that gym and goes
up
crazy.
To this point, as far as his pro fight DB, he's up to 19 credited matches.
Jeez.
19
prodigy.
Credited matches, and look how freaking good he is.
He is a prodigy. We talk about prodigies in wrestling. This guy is a prodigy.
Him and Homare.
And Homare.
Gate has 2 prodigies.
Good God.
Homare is an underrated in-ring guy, but his ability to latch onto a character, that kid came out of the... he was doing such phenomenal athleticism, and I don't think about him being an athlete because he doesn't necessarily have a great figure, but he is super athletic, but he just embodies a character guy. He just latches onto it, and it's just been so cool to see him go from whenever he was coming out for the Mochi match, kind of be a baby a genuine baby face. He had the bright trunks, and he had that character to him, and now he's doing face paint, and he's really he went from full on heel, and now he's doing I'm doing what my daddy says, tweener.
It rules, man. It rules.
Yeah, he's walking such a difficult line he's working such a very difficult place to be, even if you were a veteran wrestler, and he's doing this with only a year in.
It's the trial by fire, man. And it's not to say that Dragon Gate's better than this at everybody. They are, to some instance, but it's the why they're better than everyone. Is that they don't have the luxury of the choice. You're going to get thrown out there, and you have expectation. You're not going to be seen in black trunks for 3 years, 4 years. You're not going to be doing the same basic moves. What's your character? What is your value? What separates you from somebody? There's an
Do you
emphasis
remember-
to try.
Do you remember the first couple of matches that Hamari had when he was in Zebrats and they were doing the crowd brawls, and all Hamari, I guess, felt comfortable doing was he just threw super kicks everywhere.
Yeah.
We
He has
made
a good
fun of him
super
for
kick.
spamming super kicks the whole time.
Yeah.
Hey.
But you
Maybe
know
he's
what?
a Nick
His super
Jackson
kick was
fan.
amazing.
They were amazing. The ones that he was hitting in his debut match against Mochi, we were saying, what in the world, kid?
Yeah, like it's very similar. Yeah, I just said like Nick Jackson. It's kind of similar because he kind of has that same athleticism, but it's just crazy because it's just 9 months, 1 year in, and he's getting these little thing downs character wise. And you know, like people say, like, what the hell are you talking about? Like that's like the WWE speak of the facials of the being able to emote. Like no, this is something that this guy has down within the year. I'm not sure if he did any acting or anything like that, but to be able to at this level be able to get that emotional rise out of the audience that he wants to get out of him. He's getting exactly the reactions he wants. And it's sort of like he's sort of in that weird Sting Lex Luger style tag team with Shun, but he's also like his sidekick. It's a very difficult position to be in, but he's pulling it off. Like you don't expect anyone with his experience level to pull off. It's insane.
Well, it's a real testament because we're sitting here talking about the Reiwa 6. They were considered to be such a net negative for so long, but largely we've began over the past year since Ryoya to look at the post Reiwa 6. I've been as enthusiastic about the next guys after the Reiwa 6 as I have about the Reiwa 6 themselves, and I think that's a testament because Ryoya is a marvel, Mochi Jr., Homare, we'll see what becomes of Sahara.
I have high hopes for Sahara. I so badly want him to work.
That big gut tells me he's going to be something. Maybe he goes under the Ishin gun and like gets even bigger, because that would rule for me. Because Ed knows that to make a guy better for me, just make him fat.
But you know who else is kind of in that post Reiwa 6 group that I want to just quickly shout out as well? Ishin, who seems like they are going hard on him being the second for Gajadokuro.
Oh yeah, he is so great. I love this fat boy. He's so good, man. He's such a bully too, and like to see where he was like 6 years ago with shredded, pretty boy, brave gay guy, and now he's like he took all the lessons from Uncle Kai and like made himself better with them.
Ishin he's phenomenal, right? Like Ishin, like in terms of just there's his ability to do comedy as this heel character where it looks like so comedically villainous, and the only way that I could think about it is like the 90s Batman cartoon Joker, where it's just so over the top but dastardly, and it just makes me laugh, and I just have to but it's begrudgingly that I laugh because I'm like, I shouldn't like this guy, but the things that he does is just incredible.
Just a punk ass man.
It's perfect for him right now, especially if he's just going to be Kakuda's second, where Kakuda could just be that intense, aggressive figure. Isha just being his shit-talking pal, standing next to him. Yeah. It's a great dynamic to have.
Yeah,
but I think the thing with Ishin, it's kind of the same thing that I felt made Shun so captivating as a heel, where Shun also could do all these silly, zany things, but he never stops feeling menacing when he does it. And Ishin's very good at finding that line as well, where Ishin will goof off a bit in the ring, but then he'll do something that just immediately puts you back onto paying attention to him and going, oh right, he could still like absolutely beat anybody here.
Uh, on any given night, it's kind of like I don't want to compare it to Yano. I don't. I'm trying so hard. But there is the similarities that on any given night he can win the match by doing something ridiculous.
Well, that was the story of his match with Yamato, where he had the Dreamgate title, and he basically had Yamato dead to rights, except he decided, oh, I gotta cheat. I gotta be a dickhead right now.
Yeah. It's a great thing that they're doing, and they're touching with everyone. And I would say that as much as this is a love letter to my favorite promotion of all time, I would just I would ask, right, because I think this is the thing that holds everyone back, is we don't have definitive great matches in the same way that we would look back at the ROH six man. We don't have that high match level that fans are currently accustomed to be able to engage them with people, right? Like it's a thing in which you have to talk. It's not a negative to have to talk to someone in the know to understand the story, to get the background. You can jump in and start watching, but there's so much layeredness that I think that's a mild turnoff. And I think that we as much as glowingly I appreciate it, I do think that they need a couple of matches with high output, that match of the year contender, to get somebody back invested.
I wonder if that's what we should be looking forward to with King of Gate. I don't know if you guys have seen it, but it is just a single elimination tournament this year.
Is it? This
Yes, it
I
is.
haven't pondered forward enough to kind of look into it, but I definitely will. Probably I'll have to give it a go. Does it look like they're getting the guys in there and they're going to do a thing?
One of the first matches is Yoshioka Kakuta.
Oh, enough said, I suppose. That's
Yeah.
if they you know, if a motivated Yoshioka is always this X factor, but because if you can get him into a match and you say go, it's lightning in a bottle.
Yeah. Lightning in the jungle. Hey guys. So like, what did you guys think of the show overall?
If I were to grade it, I don't want to minimize it by anything. I would give it a strong 7.
7?
There was strong entertainment value
Yeah.
up and down the card. There was meaningful matches. There was story progression. It wasn't an overloaded card. It was a breezy watch. It wasn't lengthy. I didn't have 18 matches. Everything made sense. There weren't big botches. There weren't any technical errors. There weren't any issues. I think it was a really strong 7.
Yeah. That's pretty good, man. How about you, Ed?
I would assign it a letter grade of a B. I think it's a pretty solid B. The kind of a lot of what Pump just touched on with it. It was a very easy watch for me. I put it on and the time just passed like it always does with these shows. There was some really good stuff at the top of the card. I thought Kakuta Benkei was a very good match. I don't think there's anything that I would be going back to watch in by the end of the year for match of the year considerations, or even something I might go back and watch anytime soon. But overall, I thought it was a really fun show, and kind of the thing that keeps happening with these Korakuen shows that Dragon Gate does, and why they are now appointment watching for me, is every time they run it, you get just a little bit of a progression to what's going on in the company.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. That's great, guys. And that was our great value version of Dragon Gate King of Gate of Victory 2025. I want to thank, ladies and gentlemen, you for joining us for this love letter to. I want to thank you guys for joining us for this love letter to Dragon Gate, to the Dragon System, to our maestro, to God himself, Ultimo Dragon and the child of God, Dragon Kid. And I want to thank Pump and Punished for coming on here and and giving me their time, because I know like a lot of it's a Sunday. I know Ed goes to church, and I know me and Pup are having this sort of like kind of revelation with our faith right now. So like I just wanted to like give you the time right now, Ed, and then I'm gonna give you some other things right now. So go ahead. I want you to get your plugs in, brother.
All right. Well, I don't have a lot of things to plug other than apparently Doc's favorite show here, the Southern Fried Wrestlecast. My co-host and I, occasionally will put together episodes where we just kind of shoot the breeze, talk about whatever's going on in our heads with the current state of professional wrestling. Uh, our last show we just kind of did a rundown on all the AEW to WWE departures, kind of giving a feel for where things have kind of landed with them, and discuss whether or not their importance has whether or not they've had any importance to WWE, or if AEW has been missing something since losing them. But for that, you can follow us on southernfriedwrestlecast.podbean.com, or find us on any of your favorite podcasting apps. I don't have a social media at the moment to plug. Sorry about that. Frankly, I used to work on managing social media accounts for work, and it's basically PTSD for me to do it in my personal time.
That's not something that I want to think about. And yeah, man. Again, Pump. We are Problematic Dragon. Thank you for joining us. And I do, because I don't really get the chance to like talk to. I did ask this question to Pump last time about what his favorite thing is. So like there are two questions I always ask everybody at the end of the show. So like, Ed, what's your favorite dessert, man?
Oh no! Oh no! You put me on the spot here.
Well, I know like you try to abstain, and you try to like, you're on your journey with sugar and all that stuff. So
I've been trying. I've been trying to be a more disciplined eater of late, and refrain from sweets. Of course, we're now in the season of sweets, but um, I do love anything that's a combination of chocolate and peanut butter as a dessert. So
yeah.
if you could serve me like a chocolate peanut butter pie, I will be your best friend.
And then like, this is my last question always of everybody, like, this has nothing to do with sexuality or anything like that, but what would you want your rainbow to say?
What would I want? What you broke up for a minute?
What would you, if there is a rainbow that came out of the sky with a message from, from Ed to the rest of the world, what do you want that rainbow to say?
Oh, I don't really have a great answer for that. It's something that, just on a personal level, I've kind of been reflecting more about, with how I try to present myself to the rest of the world. I guess if I were to say something, it would be, I would hope that people see an honest, just an honest man who really values the the weight of his word and his integrity with me, I guess.
That's beautiful, man. That's really beautiful. That's touching. You got any last words, Pump?
Doc, as always, it has been an absolute marvel. I will be back in the States in less than a month, and you can expect me to be more available to do regular things as you see fit. With that, I would love to, say, hey, I hope everybody takes a moment to reflect on themselves, their loved ones, and everyone around them, and remember to tell somebody that you love them today, because that's something that we don't say enough to each other.
That's beautiful. Like, in some spaces, the three of us are called kind of like a little bit of like unfeeling, callous, mean. I can be a dick sometimes, but that's beyond the thing. And what I've done lately on my shows is having like a end of show affirmation thing. Okay, and I want to say out there, like, Drew and Ed are two of the best guys to talk wrestling about. But besides that, they're two guys living their life, trying to do best by it for themselves and for the people they love, and the fur babies they love. And like I just think like between this conversation between us, I think all of us are doing the right things and going that right way and taking that path. And whether that be because like we're feeling like a little bit of self-reflection, or feeling like having these little bit crises to face, and then sometimes things change, and you find love, or you find something to love, or you do something that you love. And I'm gonna say, like, you guys are, I'm so happy to have done this with you personally, with both of you, and for Toro for joining us earlier. You are the three guy. You guys are my inner circle, honestly. And like there's something that Ed had told me like in DM, and I'm gonna make it public because it's something that really affected me, because I respect him and all of his work so much. Is we are carving our own independent path in this podcast space, and we're doing good work. And I believe that for you too, my friend. Like this is probably some of the funnest stuff I do is with you and with Pump and with Turo. And it's like, well, the way that we cover wrestling, the way that we talk about it, I don't think anybody else does. And that's why I like having you guys joining me on this journey that we're all on. And yeah, I just want to say thank you guys for coming here. And I believe in all of us. I believe that we are going to, whatever our goals are, we did set out to do, we are going to accomplish those goals. And even if we don't, hey, at least we had the fun of trying, So once again, I want to thank everybody for joining us here on The Prescription. This is actually The Prescription presenting Problematic Dragon, featuring the State of Wrestling and, of course, the Southern Fried Wrestlecast. You'll see a lot of X's in the title. And, yeah, if you guys want to say one more last thing to each other, you can go ahead and say it.
I look forward to being able to talk about Dragongate with you guys again.
Yeah, I also am eager to do more shows with you, Doc, and also find more excuses to talk about Dragongate because Caden doesn't watch it.
Yeah, shout out to you, Caden. Hey, we got to make that crossover happen. All right, thank you guys so much.
My